Jiang Li's ex-girlfriend plagiarized his new song, and I exposed her publicly under public pressure. She left the industry, got married, and ultimately died from domestic violence. Jiang Li didn't shed a single tear for her, yet, after I helped elevate him to superstar status, he incited his fans to cyberbully me, leading to my agonizing death from an acid attack. So what if she copied it? Who gave you the right to meddle? When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the very day my white Moonlight stole and released Jiang Li's new song. This time, I accepted a massive compensation to terminate the contract. Let's see what Jiang Li can achieve without my support. 1. Countless camera flashes illuminated the man on stage holding the trophy. Jiang Li, the host, teased. For so many years, King Jiang has only had his golden lyricist Shen Nan by his side. Does this mean wedding bells are in the air? People around me started egging us on, and I couldn't help but blush. Jiang Li and I have been together for years. He promised that once he won this major award, he would propose to me in public. I wrote dozens of songs and finally helped propel Jiang Li to the top of the industry. My heart is filled with both excitement and anticipation. Jiang Li swept her gaze over me in the audience with a faint, ambiguous smile, then picked up the microphone. I'd like to take this opportunity to clarify that Shen Nan and I are merely professional collaborators. I am aware that Shen Nan has made some inappropriate gestures towards me in public settings. However, given our many years of cooperation, I hope we can both maintain a sense of decorum. Many people cast awkward glances in my direction, and my smile froze on my face. The host asked, puzzled, Jiang Tianwang, we all know you have a song you composed and wrote the lyrics for yourself, called White Moonlight. Wasn't it written for Shen Nan? Of course not. Jiang Li replied, as if he'd heard the most ridiculous joke. This song was written for my one and only love. I sat in the audience, my heart stung repeatedly by Jiang Li's words, a ringing in my ears, yet my mind was unnervingly clear. I always thought Jiang Li was so insistent on writing the lyrics for White Moonlight because the song was about me, but now, a single person suddenly comes to mind. Huang Wanyue too. Huang Wanyue was Jiang Li's first love in college. After graduation, they both entered the entertainment industry, but gradually drifted apart due to their incompatible worldviews. I met Jiang Li right after Huang Wanyue broke up with him. The shock was so severe that he couldn't write his new song, and he was on the verge of a breakdown. I was also new to the industry back then. The talent show production team assigned me to work with Jiang Li, a complete unknown, to co-write a song, so I encouraged Jiang Li to pull himself together. It took a full month to drag him out of that post-breakup slump. We then worked tirelessly together to create a song called Lost Hopes. The moment we heard the demo, Jiang Li and I were moved to tears, convinced this song would be a massive hit. But to our surprise, Huang Wanyue showed up to visit Jiang Li on set. Jiang Li was overjoyed, unaware that Huang Wanyue would rush home to record and release her own cover of Lost Hopes overnight. The glory that should have been ours was completely snatched away by Huang Wanyue. She was basking in the limelight, while Jiang Li and I were left in utter disgrace. I couldn't swallow my anger. During the live broadcast of the show, I presented evidence to expose Huang Wanyue, which instantly shot to the top of the trending searches. Huang Wanyue was beaten down like a drowned dog and reverted to her true self. She soon quit the industry and married a nouveau riche. Just a few years later, I heard she couldn't endure the domestic violence anymore, fell gravely ill, and passed away. Meanwhile, Jiang Li and I shot to fame through that show, becoming an inseparable duo. We rode the wave of success, supporting each other every step of the way and helping each other reach our peaks. Us getting together felt like the most natural thing in the world. We were simply the perfect match for each other. But I never imagined that Jiang Li had resented me for Huang Wanyue all these years, going so far as to slander me on such an important occasion. He knew perfectly well that millions of viewers were watching this Golden Melody Awards ceremony. What he said is going to be the death of me. Sure enough, right after the ceremony ended, before I could even get an explanation from Jiang Li, I was met by one of his fanatical fans. She lunged at me from the shadows, screaming the most vile obscenities, and threw the entire bottle of sulfuric acid onto me. The sheer, excruciating agony made me black out instantly. Just before my consciousness faded, I felt as if someone was holding me in their arms. 3. A familiar song reached my ears, and my body felt as if it was being shaken incessantly. I wearily opened my eyes to see a face wet with tears of joy. Shen Nan, we did it. Our Lost Dreams is going to be a smash hit. I looked at the young and handsome Jiang Li standing before me. He was dressed in cheap, no-name clothes. His hair wasn't styled with any particular care, yet he still carried himself with remarkable poise. The look in his eyes when he met my gaze was no longer clouded with complicated emotions, but held only simple, unadulterated feelings. I gently closed my eyes. The song in my ears was the demo of Lost Love. I had actually been reborn 10 years in the past. This was when I had just collaborated with Jiang Li for the first time, creating Lost Love, the starting point of the entire story. Jiang Li's phone suddenly rang, the screen flashing repeatedly with a name accompanied by a heart. Huang Wanyu. His expression shifted several times. Finally, he patted his chest and answered the call. What? You're coming to visit the set? He shot me a hesitant glance, then went downstairs to meet Huang Wanyu. I knew it. Huang Wanyu was going to steal the song. Disappointment. I took one last look at the notes dancing across the screen. They held the heart and soul of all the work Jiang Li and I had poured into this. Then I turned and walked away without a backward glance. In this life, I'm done worrying about Huang Wanyu. And I have no intention of working with Jiang Li ever again. The entertainment industry has 1,000 Jiang Li's, but there's only one Shannan. The very next day, Huang Wanyu's version of Lost Hopes was released online and became an overnight sensation. Jiang Li was completely stunned. The next competition was fast approaching. If Jiang Li couldn't submit a song, he would be eliminated. He never could have imagined that the person he held in such high regard, his cherished white moonlight, would use him so thoroughly and then discard him like trash. The PD from the production crew couldn't stand it anymore and encouraged Jiang Li to confront Huang Wanyu and demand the song back. Jiang Li immediately retorted, "How could I do that? The song's already been released under Wanyu's name. I can't ruin her like that." The PD sighed in frustration, feeling like Jiang Li was a hopeless case, and said nothing more. Jiang Li turned to me, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, and pleaded, "Shannan, what if we just write another song? Time's a bit tight, but we're both capable. If we push ourselves, we can definitely come up with something." I let out a derisive snort. "We only have a week left. Do you think I'm some kind of genie? Besides, even if I could write it, do you really think it would outshine Lost Ambition?" The fire in Jiang Li's eyes slowly died out. He crouched down in frustration, clutching his hair in despair. How could this happen? What should I do now? In my past life, I couldn't stand seeing Jiang Li in such a wretched state. Not only did I not demand he pay the penalty for breach of contract, I even went and exposed Huang Wanyu. Although I saved Jiang Li, I also made him, that lovesick fool, hate me for the rest of his life. He sweet-talked me into helping him climb step by step to the throne of the music industry, all while being eager to get revenge for Huang Wanyu. I'll never be that foolish again. Throwing myself into the fire like a moth, let go of the urge to save others, and respect their own paths. I turned and walked out. Returning later with a bag of liquor and a document, Jiang Li cracked open a bottle and took a swig, looking at me despondently. "Shannan, if we can't deliver the song, we're finished." I slapped the document down in front of him, my face a blank mask. "Jiang Li, it's not us who are finished, it's you. Your negligence led to the leak of my work. Since you refused to go to Huang Wanyu, you can pay her penalty for her. Once you've signed this document, our partnership is over." Another singer has already approached the production team to request working with me. I'll be joining them. In this lifetime, I'll honor Jiang Li's deep affection, but he must also make up for what I've lost. I wouldn't mind making his already difficult situation even worse. Jiang Li stared at me, dumbfounded, unable to snap out of it for quite some time. "Shannan, how could you join another team, and where would I get the money to give you?" I took a deep breath and finally couldn't hold back from snapping at him. "Jiang Li, you're the evergreen tree of simps, the main pillar of the jokers, the mascot of McDonald's, Batman's biggest customer. You sacrificing yourself for your grand love story is none of my business, but don't forget Lost Hopes is my work too. Why should I become a prop in your little play with Huang Wanyu?" Something I said must have struck a nerve with Jiang Li. He glanced at the photo of him and Huang Wanyu on his phone, then back at the astronomical figure in my document. Finally, with a grit of his teeth, he signed the document. "Get out, just get out, lyricists are a dime a dozen. I don't need you." Satisfied, I carefully put the document away. "Sell yourself, borrow from someone else. I don't care how you do it. I want that money by the day after tomorrow at the latest. You know what'll happen if I don't get it." With that, I turned and walked away without looking back. This time, I'm going to see just what that lovesick fool Jiang Li can accomplish without me writing his lyrics for him. I went to find that mysterious new partner of his the moment I pushed open the recording studio door. I heard his magnetic, deep voice. That voice was all too familiar. I didn't need to see the face behind the glass to know exactly who it was. Gui. In my past life, he was a top-tier star on par with Jiang Li. Unlike Jiang Li, who excelled at composing but struggled with lyrics, Gui was the complete package, a true all-rounder. He has a versatile vocal tone, a unique musical style, and his lyrics leave a lasting impression. At this point, Gui had already skyrocketed to popularity in the auditions with an original song. While I was still a complete nobody, why would he choose me? Has my talent become so obvious it's practically overflowing? After Gui finished recording the song, I offered an awkward yet polite smile. If you've already finished writing the song, Teacher Gu, why did you ask me to collaborate? There are a couple of lines I'm not happy with. I was hoping you could take a look. Gui looked down with a smile, revealing a pair of small dimples. We're partners now. No need to be so formal, you can just call me Xiaoyi. I have to say, Gui looked so fresh-faced and dewy at that time, I just wanted to pinch his cheeks. I took the music score and carefully studied the lyrics written on it. It was a love song titled Your Night, telling a story of unrequited love, with a subtle, tender sentiment woven through every line. Gui's lyricism at this stage was indeed a bit raw. I picked up a pen, tweaked a few lines, and the entire song instantly came to life. Gui and I spent the better part of the day in the recording studio before we finally settled on the final version of our work. I teased him with a grin, one of these days, I'll find a way to get you to spill the beans about this secret crush of yours. The flush spread from the tips of Gui's ears down his neck, his eyes darted away, and he simply lowered his head to avoid my gaze. How come I never knew in my past life that Gui was this easily flustered? How adorable. Alright, I'll stop teasing you. Let's call it a day and get some rest. I turned to push the door open, but failed to notice a cable on the floor. In a moment of carelessness, my foot caught on it, throwing me off balance and sending me tumbling forward. I realized I was about to face utter social humiliation. Resigned to my fate, I closed my eyes, only to fall into a warm embrace. My whole body jolted. Even with my eyes shut, the warmth and feel of that embrace, along with a faint, familiar scent that reached my nose, instantly dragged me back to the final scene of my past life. At the very moment my body was being scorched by sulfuric acid, someone had rushed over desperately and scooped me up. That was the last glimmer of light I perceived before being cast into hell. Sis, are you okay? A concerned male voice reached my ears. I opened my eyes and found myself gazing into Gui's captivating, peach blossom eyes. So, it was him in my past life. For on the eve of the show's first live stage, Jiangli asked to meet me, saying he wanted to hand over the penalty fee in person. I went to the meeting, only to find Huang Wanyue was there too. I steadied myself and took a seat opposite them. Huang Wanyue nestled affectionately against Jiangli's side, shooting me a provocative eyebrow raise. Shen Nan, thank you for looking after my Jiangli all this time. I really don't know how to thank you enough. So these two made up. Was it for mutual benefit, or love? I said with a blank expression. No need for thanks, just transfer the money you owe me. Huang Wanyue caught the underlying meaning in my words, her smile freezing on her face. She gave Jiangli's arm a gentle shake. Jiangli immediately furrowed his brow and said with displeasure, Shen Nan, I consider you a friend. How can you bring up money right off the bat? The water I had just sipped sprayed right onto his face. Be his friend? Do I look like some kind of pushover to you? Jiangli angrily wiped the water that had splashed onto her face, while I leisurely dabbed my mouth. After all this talk, don't tell me the two of you are trying to weasel out of paying me back. The debut stage is coming up soon. Who knows, if I accidentally let something slip about that song Lost Dreams. A look of panic flashed across Huang Wanyue's face. It's just money, isn't it? She blurted out. I have plenty now. I'll give it to you. Consider your song bought. But from now on, you are never to mention Lost Hopes again. I looked at her with utter contempt. That song is garbage in my eyes. Do you really think I'd want it back? Huang Wanyue was so furious she gritted her teeth. She took a deep breath, ready to fire back. I shoved my phone right in her face, forcing her to see the surveillance footage I had saved of her stealing the song. If you waste another minute, I might change my mind. What will you do then? When I decide to forget the compensation and just post this video online? Huang Wanyue was furious, but she kept her cool and transferred a sum of money to me. I counted the zeros with satisfaction, then got up and prepared to leave. Wait, Jiangli, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly called out to me. His expression was complicated. After hesitating for a long moment, he slowly asked, Shen Nan, could you take my number off your block list? That'll cost you extra. I let out a soft, dismissive laugh and walked away without looking back. After the hell he put me through in my past life, why on earth would I keep his contact information? What am I just looking for ways to make myself miserable? 5. When the first stage performance arrived, I was completely taken aback to see Huang Wanyue show up as Jiangli's guest vocalist. The two of them performed a duet of Lost. The audience erupted in cheers below, and Huang Wanyue flashed a sweet smile at the camera. I never mentioned this before, but this song was actually co-created by Jiangli and me. It's our collaborative work. He composed the music, and I wrote the lyrics. I hope you all enjoy it. Everyone on the production team who knew the inside story fell silent, their expressions turning grim in unison. After all, they're all seasoned in the entertainment industry, so they kept their composure. One by one, they played along with Huang Wanyue's performance, driving the atmosphere to its peak. The three judges scored it 10, 9, and 9 respectively. They were just 2 points away from a perfect score. Jiang Li's real-time popularity skyrocketed to the top spot, and Huang Wanyue also experienced a sudden surge in fame. The duo trended online, dominating several hot search topics. #real couple sings lost love. They're absolutely perfect for each other. #hidden gem singers Jiang Li and Huang Wanyue. #mom I believe in love again. I did a quick calculation of how much they could rake in tonight and realized that paltry penalty fee was nothing in comparison. No wonder Huang Wanyue was so quick to hand over the money. I got totally ripped off just as I was completely consumed by negativity. A gentle sis suddenly came from behind me. I turned and saw Gu Yi, dressed all in white, walking towards me from the darkness like a beam of light. His makeup and styling were elegant and aloof, with a subtle sharpness and edge, yet his gaze was gentle and resolute. For a moment, I was dazed, nearly drowning in those captivating, peach blossom eyes. Sis, I'm so nervous, can I have a hug? Even though Gu Yi was the grand finale tonight, he's been on all kinds of stages before. How could he possibly be nervous? But for some reason, I couldn't help but embrace that figure in white. Gu Yi rested his chin lightly on my shoulder, his voice clear as it reached my ear. Sis, Jiang Li is nothing. I'm going to show you that I, Gu Yi, am your best choice. I stood there frozen, unable for the longest time to grasp the meaning behind those words. Meanwhile, Gu Yi had already taken the stage. 6. He was born for the stage. His deep, resonant voice filled the venue, weaving the tale of a night with captivating grace. His voice was gentle, yet his expression remained aloof. Only when he occasionally lifted his gaze to the camera did his eyes become tender and focused, like a silent confession. The lazy, alluring sexual tension was softened by a vintage romantic mood. The entire stage exuded a sensual, dreamlike atmosphere, like a faint, warm breeze caressing your face, allowing you to feel a deep and enduring love. As the final note faded, the entire venue erupted into unprecedented applause and screams. If the previous song, Lost Hopes, was a sudden clap of thunder, then this one, Your Night, was a relentless, surging tsunami. All three judges gave perfect scores of 10. Gu Yi made a name for himself overnight. The moment this song dropped, it instantly knocked Jiang Li's trending topic right off the charts. Gu Yi took the mic, and his first words were, "Without my lyricist Shen Nan, this song wouldn't exist." The cameraman zoomed in for a close-up on my face, and my expression, a mix of slight guilt and a touch of pride, was blown up on the screen. I only tweaked a few lines of the lyrics, but the way he praised me, you'd think the song couldn't have been written without me. It's kind of embarrassing. As the competitions concluded, Gu Yi and I had co-written 12 songs, and every single one of them became a massive hit. Collaborating with Gu Yi felt even more effortless and in sync than working with Jiang Li ever did. It was like my own skills had been elevated to a whole new level. As expected, Gu Yi won first place, defeating Jiang Li by a landslide. Both his name and mine were firmly planted at the top of the trending searches. What took me by surprise was that the angle of those top trending topics wasn't quite what I had imagined. On the finale night, Gu Yi's gaze at her was far from innocent. The unspoken secrets between the genius singer and the sweet lyricist. Gu Yi says he'll share the good news with everyone. My hands were shaking like I had Parkinson's. I gulped down a huge mouthful of water and clicked on the final topic. This video is the final solo interview with Gu Yi. I was off playing werewolf with the production crew at the time, so I completely missed what he said. Gu Yi, here's a question everyone is curious about. Do you have a girlfriend right now? Gu Yi smiled gently and said, I'm working on it. I'll let everyone know when there's good news. I was absolutely furious. This guy is blowing up right now, at a crucial point in his career ascent. He's on the verge of establishing that idol singer persona to attract a wave of devoted girlfriend fans. Saying something like this now is just shooting himself in the foot, isn't it? And our careers are tied together. With one statement like that, think of all the money we're going to lose. Sure, I have enough money to live comfortably now, but whoever complains about having too much, fuming. I clicked on the second trending topic. I was determined to find out just which beautiful lyricist had made Gu Yi lose his mind. The moment my eyes landed on that bold, black name, I immediately turned off my phone screen. No, that can't be right. I must have opened it wrong. Why am I seeing my own name? Pressing a hand against my pounding heart, I shakily unlocked my phone. A user with the ID Qingchen went on a wild spree. Gui only joined this show because of Shen Nan. Gui could have signed with a label and released a solo album directly, but after hearing Shen Nan was also participating, he dropped all other opportunities and signed up for the show's open auditions. Someone asked in the comments below, wait, did they know each other before the show? Qingchen, of course. Gui became a singer in the first place for Shen Nan. My thoughts are a tangled mess, like a ball of yarn I just can't seem to unravel, whether in this life or the last. As far as I can remember, this show is where I first met Gui. Qingchen released another photo, a side profile of a girl with a ponytail. That was me. Not long after starting university back then, even though I was studying engineering, I was obsessed with writing lyrics. I spent countless hours in the library, carefully crafting each word and phrase. I think I remember now, my very first set of lyrics was written for a boy wearing a mask in the library that day. I caught a glimpse of the lively musical notes dancing on his screen. They clearly carried the author's deep emotions, yet his cursor hovered hesitantly over the delete key. I slipped him a note. Why did you delete it? He glanced around, then passed one back. Because my family arranged for me to study business abroad, I have to give up singing. And just like that, we began a silent conversation. In the end, I wrote a whole page of lyrics, dense and packed, for that fleeting, breathtaking melody and gave it to him. The name of that song is The Seed. For a long time after that, I would often run into that boy with the mask in the library, and I'd write him notes of encouragement. Then one day, he handed me one final note. I'm going abroad, to Berkeley, thank you. So that boy was Gui. So it was fate between us all along. I clicked on the first entry marked with a hot tag. It was a collection of Gui's best moments, compiled by fans. At the end of every performance, Gui would gaze tenderly and affectionately at a monitor screen. I was the only one sitting behind that screen. 7. Gui and Jiangli signed with the same top-tier media company, becoming their heavily promoted singers. When it came to choosing a permanent lyricist to collaborate with, to my surprise, both Jiangli and Gui picked me. I had no idea how to face Gui, but I could meet Jiangli with a clear conscience even without my added advantage this time around. Jiangli is still a talented up-and-coming singer. It's just that the entertainment industry is full of talented singers. Without my lyrics, his work lacks that finishing touch, fading from memory. After a brief moment in the spotlight, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Jiangli's appearance was completely different from when he first entered the talent show. With the professional styling, every advantage of his looks was now perfectly highlighted. For some reason, the moment he saw me, his eyes instantly welled up with tears. His gaze held a kind of astonished joy, as if he'd recovered something precious he thought was lost forever. Nan, he murmured, almost in a daze. I was suddenly thrown into a state of confusion myself. In our past life, whenever we were alone in private, Jiangli would always pull me into his arms and call me by that affectionate nickname, yet he would never show me the slightest bit of affection in front of others. Terrified that someone might find out he had a girlfriend. That's the biggest difference between him and Gui. Wait, why am I thinking about Gui again? Jiangli pulled out the chair next to him for me, but I sat down across from him with a cold expression. Spit it out, I'm in a hurry. Jiangli's expression instantly fell, looking utterly wounded. Finally, he sidled up to me in a placating manner and said, Nan, don't be angry. I've broken up with Huang Wanyue. My brow furrowed tightly in an instant. What's it to me if he broke up with Huang Wanyue? Why on earth should I be mad at him? But, out of sheer nosiness, I couldn't help but ask. Because of the company contract, in his past life, he was head over heels for that unattainable crush of his. If it wasn't for fame and fortune, I really can't think of any other reason. Jiangli shook her head. Because of you. I raised my eyebrows at him in surprise, completely at a loss for words. Jiangli was silent for a long moment before handing me the sheet music from the table. Nan, will you help me write the lyrics? I took the music and hummed the melody. After just a few notes, I froze in place as if struck by lightning. This sheet music is the very piece that won Jiangli the Golden Melody Award in her past life. Jiangli has been reborn. 2-8. Jiangli suddenly grabbed my hand and pulled me fiercely into her embrace. Nan, in our past life, it was all my fault. Huang Wanyue brought her fate upon herself, yet I ended up hating you for a lifetime because of it. I never wanted to lose you. I only meant for you to experience once what Huang Wanyue went through with the online hate. You know, I never wanted you to die. I just never imagined those fans could be so vicious. Do you have any idea how I've lived without you? I feel like a walking corpse. My body's on stage, but my soul, it feels like it left with you. Nan, I love you. I love you so much, but I only realized it after you were gone. Give me another chance, please. I don't care about being some king of pop anymore. Let's make it official right now, in this lifetime. I want everyone to know that Shannan is my girlfriend." I struggled desperately in his arms, but he was like a man possessed, holding me down with an iron grip. It felt as if he would pin me there forever unless I gave in. "Jiangli, I don't love you, let me go." Now, Jiangli spoke as if teasing a child. "That's nonsense. If you don't love me, then who could you possibly love?" My lips trembled with rage. The image of a gentle, smiling face suddenly flashed through my mind. I squeezed my eyes shut and shouted, "Gui, it's Gui I want, not you." Before the words had even finished, the conference room door was kicked open. Gui stood frozen in the act of kicking, staring blankly at me, his ears burning bright red. I chose Gui, formally signed the contract, and became his lyricist. Meanwhile, Jiangli went crazy trying to see me, camping out daily at my studio's entrance, only to be turned away every time by my assistants. "He looks tall and strong, but in reality, he's as fragile as a reed." Gui released a solo album, and it sold out the moment it dropped. Determined to challenge Gui, Jiangli fired back by releasing his own solo album. Surprisingly, his popularity ended up matching Gui's. Out of curiosity, I clicked on the album. The moment I saw the tracklist, I froze, followed by a wave of nausea that washed over me. Every single song in there was co-written by Jiangli and me in my past life, each one a product of my blood, sweat, and tears. I don't know if Jiangli did it just to spite me, but now the lyricist credits for all of them have been changed to Huang Wanyue. Huang Wanyue hit the jackpot for nothing. The company poached her to be Jiangli's star lyricist, and her market value has skyrocketed ever since. He's so unscrupulous, stooping to such despicable tactics just to compete with Gui. Jiangli found me, brimming with confidence and a condescending air. "Shannan," he said, "just come back to me, and I'll make Huang Wanyue disappear immediately. I'll give you everything you deserve." I fought back the metallic taste in my throat. "Pa, in your dreams." Thanks to those two solo albums, Jiangli and Gui were showered with awards and rocketed to the top tier of singers. At that very moment, the top-tier music variety show I Am the Song God extended an invitation to them. Each episode required the singers to compose and perform an original song, with the ultimate goal of crowning one song god from among these A-list artists. As Gui's partner, I naturally recorded the show with him, which inevitably meant running into Jiangli and Huang Wanyue. Huang Wanyue demonstratively linked arms with Jiangli, her scarlet lips curling into a contemptuous smile. "Shannan, I know Gui wrote all those songs himself, they just have your name on them. This music variety show is broadcast live, so try not to make a complete fool of yourself when the truth comes out." Seeing that I was ignoring her, Huang Wanyue pouted, hoping Jiangli would speak up for her, but when she turned her head, she saw Jiangli staring intently at me. Her expression shifted through a myriad of emotions before she finally forced her chin up, striking a triumphant pose. "Oh, and I should thank you. Thank you for not clinging to our Jiangli," which allowed him to realize his true feelings and come back to me. "Even though we're recording this show together, I'd appreciate it if you knew your place. Don't let just any stray cat or dog come knocking on my Jiangli's door." Jiangli suddenly spoke up, cutting off Huang Wanyue's monologue. "Shannan, my promise to you still stands." I looked in his direction, the disgust in my eyes vanishing instantly. A sweet smile suddenly graced my lips, leaving Jiangli momentarily dazed. "Nan." The next moment, I looked past Jiangli and asked, "Gui, what are you doing out here?" I was afraid if I came out any later, you'd leave without me. Gui's makeup was only half done. Without so much as a glance at Jiangli or the others, he strode straight over to me, leaned in close to my ear, and whispered, "Sis, they won't be strutting around for much longer." I raised an eyebrow, catching the mischief in that little fox's eyes. 9. When the first episode aired, Gui and I performed up to our usual standard, and our work steadily climbed to the top of the viewership charts. To everyone's surprise, Jiangli's group delivered a shockingly poor performance. The composition was passable, but the lyrics were absolute garbage, devoid of meaning, with forced rhymes, and utterly nonsensical. It's a world apart from the quality of the songs on his album. They firmly secured the last place. The trending topics are flooded with hate for Huang Wanyue. "Hey lady, if your language skills are that bad, why don't you go back to elementary school? Stop ruining our Jiangli." I just can't wrap my head around it. How can the same person who wrote those legendary hits also produce something at a kindergarten level? Get lost, you ugly hag. Huang Wanyue. If only Shannan were Jiangli's lyricist instead. Hey, just focus on criticizing Huang Wanyue. Alright, Why are you trying to steal our sister-in-law? She belongs to Brother E, and you're not taking her. When I saw Huang Wanyue again, she wasn't angry but smiled instead, confidently throwing down the gauntlet. Shen Nan, I don't believe you can keep writing lyrics. We'll definitely make a comeback next round. Fine by me. I'll be waiting. To my surprise, in the second round, Jiang Li's song had made a remarkable leap in quality. It shot straight into the top 3. Online sentiment towards Jiang Li and Huang Wanyue began to reverse, with many now making excuses for the last episode, saying Huang Wanyue wasn't feeling well. Fans from all sides started voting frantically to push Jiang Li to the #1 spot. I had a nagging feeling that something was off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Just as the online uproar reached a fever pitch, the show's production staff collectively stepped forward and dropped a bombshell of evidence. It turned out that the lyrics for Jiang Li's second episode song were bought from someone else, yet credited to Huang Wanyue. Faced with this mountain of irrefutable evidence, Huang Wanyue had no defense left and could only issue a joint apology statement with Jiang Li. Online discourse instantly split into two opposing camps. One group is criticizing Huang Wanyue for deceiving everyone, which has also tanked Jiang Li's public image. The other group consists of Jiang Li's diehard fans and the Jiang Huang shippers, whose justifications are utterly bizarre. We've already said Huang Wanyue hasn't been feeling well lately. What's the big deal if she outsourced the work once in a while? Don't blow this out of proportion. Exactly, Jiang Li herself hasn't said a word about it. Plus, the show turned out great. We all got to hear a beautiful song. What more do you people want? What's wrong with using lyrics I paid for? I don't have the right to use something I bought. I think Huang Wanyue did nothing wrong. I could only shake my head in disbelief. Huang Wanyue's mistake isn't that she bought the lyrics, but that she deceived everyone into believing she wrote them herself. The show's contract explicitly requires all content to be original. Since Huang Wanyue tried to exploit a loophole, she must face the consequences of paying a penalty for breach of contract and provide a proper explanation to everyone. Finally, the show's official account announced that Jiang Li would be withdrawn from the program and would have to pay a massive penalty for breach of contract. I looked up from my phone, took a bite of the fruit Gui handed me, and mumbled with my mouth full, "Was that you?" Gui instantly put on a pitiful, wronged expression. "Sis, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let my cousin accidentally send the lyrics I wrote to Huang Wanyue's email, and I certainly shouldn't have sold that song under his name. This whole mess is entirely my fault." I stared at his soft lips, swallowing hard, not taking in a single word he said. Right at that moment, another bombshell was dropped online. 10. It's a leaked recording from the original talent show featuring Jiang Li and Gu Yi, circulated by a staff member. Everyone immediately recognized it as Jiang Li's voice. Shen Nan, I never imagined Huang Wanyue would stoop this low. She preemptively released a cover of our song Lost. She's trying to ruin us. Time's running out. How about we put together one more track? No, we can't expose her. She's already released the song. If we do that, her career will be over. One explosive statement after another instantly set the entire internet ablaze. Those who had previously spoken up for Jiang Li and Huang Wanyue fell silent, cowering like frightened children. Huang Wanyue stormed over to me, her face flushed with rage, and immediately tried to slap me. "I already paid you the penalty fee. Why did you still release it?" Watching her hand fly toward my face, I froze in stunned confusion. It wasn't me who sent it out. A powerful force yanked me into an embrace. A cold voice came from above my head. "Leave my sister out of this." I sent it. It was the first time I'd seen Gui look so cold, but I wasn't afraid. Instead, I felt a strange sense of calm. "Right now, you have two choices: leave the industry, or go head-to-head with me and see what happens." Huang Wanyue, driven mad with rage, snarled with a twisted face, "Just who the hell do you think you are, sis? Didn't you say you've been wanting to try this place forever? I waited in line for ages to get this for you." Gui let out a soft chuckle, shoving the milk tea into my hands without so much as a glance in her direction. Only after I'd taken a satisfyingly large sip did he finally turn to Huang Wanyue, a cold, thin smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "My surname is Gu, as in Gu Studios." Huang Wanyue's face instantly drained of all color. Gu Group is one of the world's largest film and television production companies. The undisputed king of capital. Huang Wanyue didn't dare to make another scene and slunk away in disgrace. Just like in her past life, she left the entertainment industry, married a nouveau riche, and became his mistress. With those explosive revelations coming out, Jiang Li couldn't escape unscathed either. The company blacklisted him, and when that shameless recording surfaced, the entire internet dragged him through the mud. He could only compose music, not write lyrics. After causing such a massive scandal, he had no shows to appear on, no songs to record, and was met with hostility wherever he went. It was a time of utter destitution where he tasted the full bitterness of life at rock bottom. The only variety show he landed in 5 years forced him to sacrifice all his dignity, playing the fool and being ridiculed by guests just to get a laugh from the audience watching him on the show, drenched in sweat from the ordeal yet forced to put on a brave face. I suddenly felt a sense of release. 11. Guyi's winning song on I Am the Song God is titled The Seed. This track is a complete departure from his usual style, raw and youthful, yet brimming with the pure dreams of a young man. It captures the journey from confusion and inner conflict, through a struggle against worldly expectations, to ultimately choosing to stay true to oneself. It seems everyone can find in this song a reflection of the original dream they're still holding on to, or the one they nearly gave up on. Standing on stage, Guyi held the mic with a gentle smile. I'm just the support. The truly brilliant one is my lyricist, and my beloved, Shannan. I'm honored to stand beside her and share in this glory. He stood radiantly on the stage, opening his arms to me from across the distance. I flew onto the stage in my white dress and embraced him in a passionate, exhilarating, and perfectly synchronized hug, grateful for how we've helped each other grow. The end. Story 2. After 10 years of marriage to Chin Rui, I died in childbirth on the operating table. Only to wake up reborn in my college days, overcome with joy. I rushed to find Chin Rui, only to overhear him confiding his anguish to a friend, not being able to have Lin Lan, to marry her. I just can't accept it. Jiang Ying's lovely too, you know, she's completely smitten with you. Chin Rui chuckled. Just a knockoff. No matter how convincing the imitation, it's still a counterfeit. Being with her would leave me forever unsatisfied. 1. Chin Rui and I dated for 6 years before marrying, and we've now been married for a decade with a beautiful, adorable daughter. All these years we've been a loving couple with a harmonious family. I truly believed Chin Rui and I would grow old together. Never did I expect to find myself unexpectedly pregnant as I approached 40. My in-laws urged me to keep the baby, saying our daughter would be too lonely as an only child. I didn't want to have another child originally. At 40 years old, my body never fully recovered from the difficult postpartum period after my daughter's birth. Even my doctor advised against continuing the pregnancy, but I couldn't resist Chin Rui's desperate, red-eyed pleading. I loved him too much, and finally relented with a nod. We made it through the pregnancy without major complications. On the operating table, I couldn't be saved from the amniotic fluid embolism in my dying moments. I heard my in-laws and parents wailing outside the operating room, but Chin Rui's voice was conspicuously absent, perhaps clinging to that last shred of longing. I somehow reincarnated back to my college days too. My roommate Suyun shook my arm. Ying, why are you spacing out? We're gonna be late. She dragged me toward the classroom building at a run. The glass curtain wall reflected my slender, lively figure. My face was youthful yet full of vitality. Both Suyun and I wore denim shorts that showed off our slender, pale calves, so young and vibrant. I remember during my 3rd trimester, severe swelling, excessive weight gain from overnourishment, and dark spots covering my face. Even I thought I looked awful, yet Chin Rui never showed any disdain, treating me with unwavering kindness. A distant cousin once joked that standing next to Chin Rui, I looked more like his aunt than his wife. At the thought of Chin Rui, I suddenly pulled my hand away from Suyun. You go ahead, I've got something to take care of. Ying, are you ditching class again to see Chin Rui? Ignoring Suyun's protests, I turned and bolted out the door. Chin Rui is 2 grades above me and should still be in the lab right now. I need to see him, right this instant. In my rush up the stairs, I nearly collided with someone. Sorry, I muttered without looking up, already sprinting away. Jiang Ying, huh? I turned instinctively without breaking stride. The guy stood on the stairs dressed head to toe in black, with sharp features and an unmistakable keep-away aura. Liang Zhouyuan, I cried out joyfully, spinning around to throw my arms around him in a tight embrace. 3. Come to think of it, we haven't seen each other for about 10 years. Ever since I married Chin Rui, that guy just vanished without a trace. Liang Zhouyuan and I grew up together since childhood. Ours is a special bond, but I can't deal with him right now. I'm in a hurry to find Chin Rui. I'll catch up with you later. Gotta go find Chin Rui now. As I released my grip, Liang Zhouyuan's expression turned peculiar, his ears burning an alarming shade of red. The moment Chin Rui's name left my lips, his gaze frosted over abruptly, nothing left to say. He finished coldly and walked away without another word. I was taken aback, but didn't have time to dwell on it. Geniuses are always eccentric, and Liang Zhouyuan was no exception. Back when we played house as kids, he even insisted on marrying me. He's grown up but still gives me that sour face every time we meet, like I owe him money. But today I'm happy, now that I'm a fabulous knockout. this queen won't stoop to his level. Taking the stairs two at a time, I reached for the lab door handle. Suddenly, I heard Qin Rui's voice. I'll never be at peace if I can't have Lin Lan as my wife in this lifetime. My feet felt nailed to the ground, my blood turning to ice in an instant. His voice carried the weight of dejection and bitterness. His buddy comforted him. Jiangying's great too, you know, she's crazy about you. Qin Rui let out a scoff. Just a cheap knockoff. No matter how good it looks, it's still a fake. Being with her would leave me with a lifetime of regrets, for I staggered back a step. Who's there? As Qin Rui's voice drew closer, I turned and bolted without a second thought, kept running down the stairs until reaching the pitch-black basement, crouched down and hugged myself tightly, yet no tears would come. After thinking for a long while, certain truths gradually surfaced. So Qin Rui had feelings for Lin Lan, the school beauty all along. No wonder he made such a scene at our wedding all those years ago. I always thought those were tears of joy. Now I realize it was because Lin Lan could only stand as bridesmaid, never the bride. In those days, Qin Rui was obsessed with class reunions. I thought it was just a man's vanity after achieving success. Looking back now, he probably just wanted to see Lin Lan. He wanted Lin Lan to see how well he's doing now and regret her past choice. So, does Lin Lan regret it? A thought suddenly occurred to me. An indescribable chill ran down my spine in that instant. In my previous life, shortly after I got pregnant, Lin Lan abruptly divorced her husband. After the divorce, she came to Beijing for a getaway, and I kindly invited her to stay at my place for a week. Qin Rui had complained that having outsiders at home made it awkward for us to be intimate. My face flushed with embarrassment as I scolded him for being restless even during pregnancy. True enough, he never shared a bed with me the entire week Lin Lan stayed over. I suddenly couldn't help but chuckle. That must have been when Qin Rui started planning to rekindle things with Lin Lan. The cruel irony was that I'd been the one to invite the wolf into our home. 5. Walking back from the lab building toward the dormitory, my turbulent thoughts gradually settled. According to our past life's timeline, Qin Rui was supposed to confess to me today. I adored him so much that I immediately said yes, overjoyed beyond words. But now, I've come to understand his true feelings. I'm no cheap imitation or knockoff. I am Jiangying. If this is how Qin Rui truly sees me, cheap and worthless, no matter how much I love him, I can never be with him again. But if I hadn't married Qin Rui, I wouldn't have my beloved daughter, little Cherry. In my past life, I died on the operating table, a tragic end for both mother and child. If nothing goes wrong, Qin Rui will end up with Lin Lan. But what about little Cherry? I've always sensed that my in-laws favored sons over daughters. Though they do love little Cherry, what they truly wanted was a grandson. If Lin Lan were to have another son, I dare not imagine how pitiful a child would be without their mother. 6. White roses and candles were arranged downstairs in the dormitory. As night fell, the heart-shaped candle arrangement was lit with Qin Rui standing at its center, dressed in a white shirt and black trousers. His gentle features drew admiring gazes from countless girls around him. The sight pierced my heart like a sharp blade, leaving me breathless with pain. The joy I'd felt in my past life only made this moment taste more bitterly ironic. Yet I'd already rehearsed how to nod with feigned delight. I can't bear to be apart from my little Cherry. I'd move heaven and earth to return to her side. Qin Rui noticed me too, but his gaze lingered on my face for just a moment before coldly shifting away. Then I saw him walking toward Lin Lan, cradling that bouquet of white roses. Surrounded by her girlfriends, Lin Lan stood like a proud and graceful swan. In our past life, Qin Rui only dared to confess his feelings after Lin Lan got divorced. But in this lifetime, a sudden thought struck me. Could it be that Qin Rui also traveled back in time like I did? He knew he'd achieve career success, fame, and fortune within 6 years of graduation. He knew he'd eventually marry the woman of his dreams. So this time, he decided to strike first. Plenty of guys chase me. Why should I choose you? Lin Lan didn't accept the flowers Qin Rui offered. 7. She's so gorgeous that flocks of guys at school are fawning over her. Though Qin Rui is quite accomplished, his family background is rather modest. In her past life, Lin Lan kept being picky until 28, only to end up marrying some unattractive rich kid. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but laugh at myself wryly. Shortly after Lin Lan got married, Qin Rui proposed to me. The wedding didn't happen until over a year later. By then, I was nearly 29, having dated Qin Rui for a full 6 years. He always insisted he wouldn't marry me until he'd earned enough for a proper house. He refused to let me settle for less. The truth was, he only gave up completely after Lin Lan married someone else, reluctantly settling for me, a cheap imitation. Lin Lan, believe me, it won't take 10 years, no, 6 at most, and I'll make you the happiest woman in the world. Do you own a home or car in Beijing? Can you even afford them in the future? Qin Rui, you're exceptional, but promises to me are just mirages. Lin Lan shook her head. I'm sorry, I can't accept your confession. Qin Rui's face turned ashen in an instant. Lin Lan, trust me, 6 years at most, I can't take that gamble. With those words, Lin Lan turned to leave, yet her gaze suddenly locked with mine. Jiangning, Lin Lan seemed to have an idea, strode over in 2 steps, and yanked me by the arm. She shoved me right in front of Qin Rui. Your junior Jiangning has had a crush on you forever, and you two always got along well. Qin Rui, I think she's perfect for you, why not give it a shot? Qin Rui's gaze swept over me with icy detachment before he finally spoke stiffly. Jiangning, would you be willing? We've shared so many years together, slept in the same bed, raised children side by side, yet in his heart, I doubt he ever truly saw me as his wife. Clutching that bouquet of roses, his face icy with reluctance, he thrust them toward me. How I longed to snatch those flowers and smash them right into Qin Rui's face, but the thought of little Cherry made me bite my tongue hard. If I accept Qin Rui and get everything back on track, could I return to 10 years later? All I want is to go back, take my precious daughter with me, and love her with everything I have. Ha, a low, mocking chuckle suddenly cut through the crowd. Instinctively turning, I saw Liang Zhouyuan standing beyond the throng, his ink-black attire stark against his piercing, stormy gaze. The moment our eyes met, he shoved through the crowd with long, purposeful strides toward me. Qin Rui's brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. Liang Zhou strode past him without a glance, grabbed my wrist, and yanked me forward. Jiangning, anything discarded by others is trash, flowers included, people especially. Without letting me respond, he lifted his gaze to Qin Rui. Have some shame, courting 2 people with 1 bouquet, even Scrooge would bow to your frugality. Qin Rui's face turned ashen in an instant, yet he still gritted his teeth and stared at me. Jiangning, I'm asking you one last time, will you or won't you? 8 In my past life, I never once said no to Qin Rui. As the years passed, classmates and friends began marrying and starting families. My parents privately complained many times about Qin Rui's reluctance to marry, saying it made them lose face among relatives and friends, yet I foolishly defended him and made excuses, waiting until I was 28 before he finally proposed. I didn't wear my wedding gown until I was nearly 30. I believed every word he said and agreed to whatever he asked. When I was in postpartum confinement after giving birth to little Cherry, he suggested we save money for a bigger house by skipping the maternity center and not hiring a postnatal caregiver. My mother-in-law barely helped us during the confinement period, clearly displeased that little Cherry was a girl. Just 7 days after my C-section, I had to drag myself out of bed with unhealed wounds to care for both myself and my newborn daughter. That's how I developed chronic health problems that never fully healed. At 39, I found myself pregnant again. I didn't want to keep it. My body couldn't really handle another pregnancy. My in-laws threw tantrums to pressure me, and even my own parents insisted I keep the baby. In the end, it was Qin Rui who made me relent. He pleaded, Ying, do this for me, keep our child. I began my bed rest, ignoring those terrifying high-risk warnings on the medical reports. Countless tonics and pregnancy-preserving medicines left me swollen all over, gaining a full 30 pounds. My belly and thighs were covered with hideous stretch marks. Back then, this bloated, sallow-faced woman still foolishly clung to Lin Lan's side. She remained as slender and beautiful as ever. Qin Rui must be regretting even more not marrying Lin Lan. Recalling these past events still leaves me utterly heartbroken. Standing there in a daze, I found myself weeping without realizing it until someone nearby muttered, agreeing to this would make you such a pathetic simp. You don't know, this girl used to be Qin Rui's little lapdog. She's probably over the moon about this. Didn't you see she was practically trembling with excitement? 9 Suddenly I shuddered violently, as if pricked by a needle. So this was how pitiful I'd appeared in others' eyes all along. Jiangning, Liang Zhouyuan seemed to have reached his limit. Must you degrade yourself like this? Jiangning, Qin Rui's voice softened. After making such a grand romantic gesture to Lin Lan tonight only to be flatly rejected, he naturally found himself in an awkward position. If I keep shamelessly fawning over him like some desperate simp, he might salvage a shred of dignity. Ying, I know you're a good girl, Lin Lan wasn't wrong, maybe we should give this a try. As he spoke, he couldn't help stealing a glance at Lin Lan. That look held resentment, humiliation, and a calculated edge. I won't pressure you, take your time to think it over. Qin Rui gently pressed the bouquet into my arms. The hand gripping my wrist suddenly released its hold. I turned my head to glance at Liang Zhouyuan. He turned away without a glance, his face cold as ice. I lowered my gaze to the white roses cradled in my arms. I despise white roses, especially when they're someone else's discarded trash. Qin Rui watched as I slammed the bouquet onto the ground. He looked startled, but more than anything, humiliated and furious. Jiang Ying, what the hell is this supposed to mean? I watched Qin Rui. His handsome face was contorted with barely contained rage when his goddess Lin Lan rejected him. He'd only felt bitter resignation, not daring to show the slightest anger, but my rejection struck him as ungrateful audacity, leaving him both incredulous and furious. Qin Rui, listen carefully. I refuse. Say that again. I said no, no to being with you, no to dating you, and absolutely no to ever loving someone like you again. Jiang Ying, you'll regret this. Qin Rui's face twisted in instant fury. I ignored him and walked toward Liang Zhouyuan standing nearby. After all, everything that happened belongs to a past life. There's no point in letting myself drown in those memories. I've returned to being 21, unmarried and childless. Without my daughter Cherry in this world, she'd be spared the pain of losing a mother, and I wouldn't have to worry about her being mistreated or bullied. Once you let go, you become invulnerable. As for Qin Rui, a 20-something Jiang Ying could afford to be love-struck, but Jiang Ying, who's lived over 60 years across 2 lifetimes, what else is there to dwell on and cling to? Stripping away all pretense and seeing his true self only fills me with bitter regret and disgust. 10. Liang Zhouyuan watched as I walked up to him. Just like when we were kids, I immediately hooked my arm through his. Liang Zhouyuan, let's grab some spicy hot pot by the school gate. I'm starving to death. Liang Zhouyuan remained silent, glancing down at my hand clutching his sleeve. Remembering his recent eccentric habits, I awkwardly tried to pull my hand back, but he caught my wrist instead. I heard him clear his throat softly, his voice lacking its usual chill. Spicy hot pot isn't hygienic. Let me take you somewhere else, but I'm craving spicy hot pot, with extra chili oil and vinegar. Liang Zhouyuan glanced at me again. Fine. Sitting in the small diner by the school gate, I was devouring my meal with such relish that beads of sweat dotted my forehead. Liang Zhouyuan, however, barely touched his chopsticks. He only reached out to tuck a stray lock of hair behind my ear when it fell loose. Then he remained frozen in that gesture until I finished eating. I feel a bit embarrassed, but given that we've known each other since childhood, I blurted out without thinking. Liang Zhouyuan, since when did you become so considerate? Are you in love or have someone special in mind? He stared at me for a moment before suddenly reaching out. Before I could react, he'd already gently wiped away a smudge of grease from the corner of my mouth. What do you mean by Are you dating someone or have a crush? I grabbed his arm insistently. Spill it. Which stunning beauty finally managed to win you over? Now this is something extraordinary. After all, Liang Zhouyuan's legendary reputation at school was being utterly immune to feminine charms and notoriously hard to please. He was quite popular with girls during his first 2 years at school, but later, they practically vanished. Not yet. I'll tell you when the time comes. Liang Zhouyuan, I was freaking out. My curiosity gets the better of me. I can't keep anything to myself. Liang Zhouyuan had always been remarkably composed since childhood, with nerves of steel. No matter how I threatened or bribed him, he refused to reveal who his crush was. Fine, keep your secrets. Only a blind beauty would fall for an ice-cold jerk like you. Annoyed, I shook off his hand and stormed ahead. She was truly blind before. Liang Zhouyuan murmured abruptly. 11. I turned to look at him instinctively. Liang Zhouyuan, his calm gaze lingered on my face before he finally spoke. But she's an absolutely wonderful girl. I'd never seen such a wistful, sorrowful expression on Liang Zhouyuan's face before. He'd always been aloof since childhood, seemingly indifferent to everything. For him to be like this now, he must have loved that girl deeply. Accompany me to study sessions for a month, and I'll tell you. Liang Zhouyuan walked up beside me, his arm on my side slightly bent. I froze for a moment. Liang Zhouyuan spoke up. The path's rough. Hold on to me. Oh, I replied dumbly, grabbing his arm. He remained silent all the way until we reached my dorm building. I'll come by tomorrow to walk you to the study hall. Oh, go on up. I waved at him in the dim amber light. His tall, lean frame stood like a blade of sharpened bamboo. Though only a year my senior, his piercing gaze already carried an unstoppable edge. I knew Liang Zhouyuan was destined for greatness. Walking back to the dorm, I kept wondering, who was the girl that had caught his eye? After all, in my past life, I'd never heard any news about him dating or getting married. 12. The next day, Liang Zhouyuan was already waiting for me outside the dormitory. I felt slightly awkward as I walked downstairs with my backpack. Liang Zhouyuan was quite the celebrity on campus, despite his aloof nature and barely acknowledging any girls. His academic brilliance was simply undeniable, not to mention that unfairly handsome face of his. Liang Zhouyuan was reading. While I listened to English beside him, I soon lost focus and found myself stealing glances at his profile. Back then I was so busy chasing after Qin Rui that I barely noticed him, but you can't entirely blame me for that. When I first came to school, I really wanted to hang out with him, we'd grown up together since childhood, but he was always too busy, and grew into this weird, withdrawn person every time we met. I'd chatter away nonstop while he'd barely muster a grunt in response. Over time, I grew tired of this dynamic and gradually stopped reaching out to meet him. Later, I met Qin Rui, a charming, witty gentleman who was the polar opposite of Liang Zhouyuan. It's hardly surprising that young women would fall for a man like that. Perhaps I'd been staring at him too long, for he suddenly closed his book, removed his glasses, and turned to face me. His handsome features suddenly filled my vision, making my heart skip a beat. "What are you looking at?" "And nothing." I hastily averted my gaze, only to hear Liang Zhouyuan chuckle softly. "Sakura." It was the first time he'd called me that. Well, not exactly the first. He used to call me that all the time when we were kids, but ever since we grew up, it's always been the formal Jiang Ying. What is it? Let's have dinner together tonight." "Oh, okay." A deeper smile reached Liang Zhouyuan's eyes as he raised his hand to gently ruffle my hair. "Decide what you'd like to eat and text me." 13. But I ended up standing him up that evening. That afternoon, Qin Rui suddenly sent me a WeChat message. "Have you forgotten little cherry?" To others, it might have sounded like nonsense, but those words sent chills down my spine. I immediately dialed Qin Rui's number. "Qin Rui, Ying, I knew it. You're just like me." "Qin Rui, what the hell did you mean by that?" A low chuckle came through the receiver as Qin Rui deliberately drawled his words. "Sweetheart, if you want to know how little cherry fared after you died, meet me at the school's back gate." Qin Rui hung up without another word. I stared at his number, itching to block and delete it immediately. Whether it's from a past life or a parallel universe, none of it has anything to do with Jiangning now. I'm only 21. There's no daughter named Little Cherry in my life. What does her life in that imaginary world have to do with me now? Yet there I sat, tears silently streaming down my face without me noticing. I remember that night before delivery, my little daughter clung to my bedside, covering me with endless kisses. She asked me with trembling fear, "Mommy, will you stop loving me when the baby brother comes?" Grandpa and Grandma keep talking about the baby brother every day. They even forgot my birthday. "Mom, I'll be really good from now on. I'll help take care of the baby brother. So please don't dislike little Cherry, okay?" At that time, I was in such excruciating labor pain that I couldn't even properly comfort her. When they finally led her out of the ward, she kept turning back to look at me with tear-filled eyes. When I saw Qin Rui, he was leaning against the wall smoking a cigarette. "Honey, I knew you'd come." He seemed heavily drunk, staggering toward me with arms outstretched for a hug. I shoved him away hard and took a step back. "Qin Rui, what did you want to tell me?" Qin Rui stared at me intently for a long moment before speaking slowly. "Ying, you're clearly my wife, the woman who shared my bed and bore my children. Why are you rejecting my confession now while growing so close to Liang Zhouyuan?" I turned to leave immediately. Qin Rui suddenly called after me, "Darling, less than a year after your death, little Cherry fell from the windowsill." 14. What did you say? I spun around to face Qin Rui in disbelief, my entire body trembling uncontrollably. "In our past life, Qin Rui and I lived on the 11th floor, the top floor, an 11-story fall. There's no surviving that." "You're lying, aren't you?" "We had safety nets on every balcony and windowsill." "Little Cherry was 8 years old. How could she possibly have fallen?" "Accidents happen. That's just the way it is." Qin Rui looked at my tear-streaked face and said, "But she was lucky. She landed on an awning a few floors down, so she didn't die. She's still alive, isn't she? You want to know?" Qin Rui slowly extended his hand, palm upturned. I saw little Cherry's hairpin, the cherry-shaped one stained with her blood. "Qin Rui." I stared at him in shock, unable to believe my eyes. Why would little Cherry's hairpin be in this timeline's Qin Rui's possession? "Ying, if you stay with me, I'll tell you what happened to our daughter." Qin Rui looked at me with unwavering determination. Perhaps it's because of this hairpin stained with her blood that I always seem to know things about our daughter. "Qin Rui, you clearly don't love me. Why aren't you chasing Lin Lan instead of pestering me?" "Ying, we've been through thick and thin together as husband and wife all these years. How could I possibly have no affection for you at all?" I admit I was initially drawn to Lin Lan's beauty, but after much reflection, I realized you're the one who truly suits me best. "Ying, weren't you happy when you married me in our past life?" He gently grasped my shoulders, lowering his voice to coax me tenderly. "You love me, you truly love me. If we stay together, we'll get married and have our little Cherry. In this world, Cherry won't lose her mother or fall from the balcony. She'll have a happy, complete family. Doesn't that sound perfect?" The moment he leaned in to kiss me, I shoved him away violently and slapped him across the face. Qin Rui froze, covering his face with a dark glint in his eyes. Jiang, you'd better think carefully, your daughter is still suffering right now. Yes, she's suffering in another world, enduring injustice while I'm powerless. Why should I foolishly repeat this tragedy in this timeline? Staring at Qin Rui, I desperately wanted to tear off his hypocritical mask. Then I remembered why he was so insistent on forcing me to stay with him. Buried in graduation internships, he barely had time to take care of himself. His mother was about to come to Beijing for medical treatment, accompanied by his younger sister who had dropped out of school in that lifetime. I personally took care of his family to free him from worries. I rented the apartment. Qin Rui was broke. I even advanced the medical fees, which eventually became another unpaid debt he still got. Nothing to his name, so someone has to slave away paving his way, and naturally, that thankless task falls to me, the fool from his past life. Don't you want to go back to be with her, Jiang? In that timeline, I'll marry Lin Lan and have more children. As for little Cherry, a cripple who might end up quadriplegic from that fall, have you thought about how she'll spend the rest of her days? I want to go back. I want to rescue my poor daughter, but I don't trust Qin Rui. What's done is done. No use chasing shadows. All we can do is hope that in that alternate reality, her biological father still possesses a shred of decency. Without another word, I turned on my heel and walked away. My phone rang several times. I knew Liang Zhouyuan was trying to reach me, but right now, I don't even know how I should face him. If I said I could truly let go, that would just be lying to others. After all, she's my own flesh and blood. The daughter I raised for 7 long years. Her fate hangs in the balance. Suffering in some distant reality, yet here I stand powerless. I just need some time alone with my thoughts. Jiang, what if I told you I could send you back to that world, back to your daughter? Qin Rui's words hung in the air like the devil's bait, freezing me in my tracks before I realized it. I'll admit, that single sentence of his had me spellbound. Even in my past life, I was no match for his calculating mind and bottomless cunning. His honeyed words wrapped in hollow affection fooled me. For an entire lifetime, no matter how hard I tried to resist and stay guarded, I still fell right into the trap Qin Rui had so meticulously set for me. You left me no choice but to resort to this. Qin Rui let out a soft sigh as he gently caressed my cheek. My limbs felt like lead, completely drained of strength. All I could do was stare helplessly at Qin Rui standing by the bedside. He took out his phone and started photographing me from every angle, then began undoing my buttons one by one. I wanted to resist, but didn't have an ounce of strength left. Qin Rui's movements suddenly froze again. Ying, when you rejected me, was it just because of Lin Lan, or did Liang Zhouyuan have something to do with it too? No wonder in our past life. Qin Rui suddenly trailed off, then let out a cold laugh. He's in love with you, that's why he never married in our previous life, and now, the moment you turned me down, he swooped right in. Liang Zhouyuan, my dear, my body felt utterly drained, yet my mind remained crystal clear. Though frantic with urgency when following Qin Rui earlier, I still kept my guard up. Seizing a moment when Qin Rui wasn't looking, I secretly sent Liang Zhouyuan a WeChat message. Just 2 words, Big Brother. That was our childhood code. Young Liang Zhouyuan once told me, Ying, whenever you're scared, just call out Big Brother. No matter where I am, I'll come find you and save you. I wonder if he still remembers this little promise. Between us, deep down, I just knew he'd come for me. Just as Qin Rui undid my last button and raised his camera again, the door burst open with a crash. Ying, I heard Liang Zhouyuan's voice, as if it came from another world, so distant, yet so close. Big Brother is here. As if the entire world had suddenly fallen silent the moment Liang Zhouyuan's face came into view. My anxious heart instantly settled. Nestled in Liang Zhouyuan's arms, my body grew feverish while crimson bloomed across my cheeks. He brought cool mineral water to my lips. I gulped down half the bottle, yet still shook my head in feverish distress. My fingertips brushed against something cool and smooth, like finding an oasis in the desert. I couldn't resist greedily caressing it over and over, even wanting to press my burning body against it, but Liang Zhouyuan's slender hand suddenly grasped my scorching fingertips. 15. Ying, hold on a moment. Hold on for what? My bleary eyes widened to meet a pair of dark yet fathomless eyes. A faint, cool mint fragrance drifted to my senses. The fingers gripping my hand burned into my wrist like a sudden snap of the tautest string in my body. Brother, I murmured softly, tilting my face up to press a kiss against Liang Zhouyuan's lips. Ying, he gripped my wrist tightly, trying to push me away, but having tasted that cool spring, I'd already lost all reason. Brother, could you give me some water please? I murmured incoherently, breaking free from his grasp only to wrap my arms around his neck, pressing closer as the kiss deepened, lying on Liang Zhouyuan's spacious bed. I stared up at him with evident dissatisfaction, my body still burned with fever, the discomfort gnawing at me like a relentless ache. Liang Zhouyuan hastily pulled on a pair of pajama pants and got out of bed, bringing me some water to drink, but water wasn't what I really wanted. He seemed almost afraid to look at me, clearing his throat softly, "Ying." I watched his flushed ears and the bite mark I'd left on the side of his neck. My heart grew increasingly restless. "Brother, I want more." I pushed the cup aside, rose to my knees and embraced him again. He looked down at me, his eyes gradually overflowing with boundless tenderness. "All right, not so fast," I whimpered, my voice dripping with petulant displeasure. 16. Liang Zhouyuan flipped me onto my back, pinning me beneath him. "Ying, you'd better not beg for mercy." Dawn was breaking. The burning heat in my fingertips finally subsided to a normal warmth. Liang Zhouyuan's forehead was damp with sweat, his slender fingers tangled with my long hair, lingering before finally separating. "Would you like some water?" he murmured softly, his deep voice wrapping around me as he held me close. "Yes, please." Exhausted, I quickly grabbed his arm and explained urgently, "Just water, nothing else." A warm smile instantly spread across Liang Zhouyuan's eyes. He leaned down to kiss my sweaty forehead, murmuring, "I'm not some immortal." I watched him get up to fetch me water just as my body recovered. My mind started tangling again. To be honest, I did occasionally imagine marrying Liang Zhouyuan when I was little. After all, he was handsome and always treated me well, but as we grew older, he gradually became cold and indifferent due to his parents' divorce and his mother's passing. Being naturally bubbly, it's no surprise I didn't like him. Yet now, we've crossed the most intimate line. Though external forces played their part, no matter what, the relationship between Liang Zhouyuan and me has fundamentally changed. I had to start thinking about what to do next. "What's on your mind?" Liang Zhouyuan brought over some water. He naturally pulled me into his arms and helped me drink. Liang Zhouyuan, after drinking the water, I hesitated before speaking. "So, about us." He leaned forward to set down the glass, then his fingers intertwined with mine as our hands met by my side. "Jiang, you promised to marry me when we were kids. That was just childish nonsense." A sudden, indescribable sadness welled up in my heart, yet I couldn't pinpoint where this sadness came from. Back when I first discovered love's flutter, I secretly had a crush on him, but a young girl's heart is delicate and sensitive. I couldn't bear his silence and aloofness. What about now? Surely I've grown wiser. Liang Zhouyuan grasped my hand, lowering his gaze to meet mine. "Ying, you're an adult now," he said softly. "Adults must take responsibility for their actions." As he spoke, the faintest blush tinged the corners of his eyes, giving him an almost wounded expression. "You can't just love me and leave me, and you certainly can't pretend nothing happened after wearing that dress." That's not what I meant." "So you're saying you'll take responsibility for me? Do men need to take responsibility too?" But I didn't dare ask. Liang Zhouyuan was always so aloof and unapproachable. How heartbreaking this looks right now. Do I really have to take responsibility? You don't want to be responsible for me. And no, that's not it. With red-rimmed eyes, Liang Zhouyuan gently pulled me into an embrace. His chin rested on my shoulder as he nuzzled lightly. "Ying, I've been so lonely since my mother passed." Liang Zhouyuan, the thought of Aunt Liang sent a sudden pang through my heart. Aunt Liang was incredibly kind to me when I was a child. When she passed away unexpectedly, I went to pay my last respects. Liang Zhouyuan didn't shed a single tear at the graveside that day. Some even called him heartless, as if he were born under an unlucky star destined for solitude. I couldn't help but hold him tight. He'd lost his mother. How could a motherless child not feel lonely and heartbroken? Just like my little cherry in another world. Now she lies alone in the hospital. Is she lonely? Is she afraid? I couldn't even give her a hug. "Ying, are you crying?" Liang Zhouyuan, "Do you think there's such a thing as a regret antidote in this world?" Ying, "As long as your conscience is clear." "Yes, with a clear conscience I gave my genuine heart and sincerity. I've wronged no one and harmed no one. The one who should be suffering isn't me." Just like the Stephen Chow movies I love, his films have mocked and satirized many things in this world, but never once did he ridicule love. I, Jiang, have lived with a clear conscience in both this life and the last. Good people will always be rewarded, and the wicked will get their comeuppance. Ying, do you believe me? Liang Zhouyuan's eyes were impossibly clear, yet held a conviction that commanded belief. In the end, I nodded. Liang Zhouyuan gently brushed my temple hair and asked, "What would you like to eat?" "I'll make it for you. Just plain fried rice, the simplest kind." He smiled at me and said, "All right." 17. I thought long and hard about it, and discussed it with Liang Zhouyuan. In the end, we decided to hand over the recorded evidence from my phone to the police. People like Qin Rui will Stop at nothing to get what they want. If he could scheme against me like this today, he might well target other innocent girls in the future. He had already secured a prestigious internship at a renowned hospital. His future seemed boundless. Just like in his past life, he was destined to establish himself and put down roots in Beijing. But now, everything that was once within his grasp has crumbled to dust because of these recordings, public reprimand, and expulsion from the university, years of hard work in college, only to have it all go down the drain at the final moment when the police came to take him away. Liang Zhouyuan and I stood among the crowd of onlookers. Qin Rui kept glancing back, as if searching for something. At the very last moment, his gaze locked with mine in the crowd. He suddenly began thrashing violently, screaming my name like a madman. Jiang Ying, you venomous witch. No wonder you'll die a wretched death. No wonder your daughter ended up a cripple. The crowd buzzed with whispers, and classmates who recognized me shot me surprised glances while pointing in my direction. Qin Rui was quickly subdued by the police and escorted into the patrol car, but just as he boarded the vehicle, the cherry hairpin in his pocket suddenly tumbled out. No one noticed the tiny fallen hair accessory. As the car drove away, I stepped forward and knelt down to pick up the hairpin from the ground. Her daughter's blood still stained its surface the moment my fingers closed around it. A searing pain shot through my heart uncontrollably. The agony doubled me over, racking my entire body with spasms. Ying, what's wrong? Liang Zhouyuan panicked, scooping me up while shouting for someone to call an ambulance. The sharp edge of the hairpin pierced my palm, fresh blood slowly seeping into the dried stains. Blinding white flashes filled my vision as metallic ringing, like clashing swords, roared in my ears. Liang Zhouyuan kept calling my name, but my consciousness seemed to detach, gradually sinking into pitch-black oblivion. 18. What should we do? The doctor said little Cherry might become quadriplegic. This could be a bottomless money pit. The figures in my field of vision gradually came into focus, floating mid-air. I gradually recognized those figures, my in-laws pacing anxiously outside the operating room. They were whispering to each other in hushed tones. Well, the old man looked at his wife and said, maybe we should let it be. If it's truly paraplegia, living would just be suffering. What a waste of all the love we've given her. Exactly, can you believe? This child is already over 7 years old and still so mischievous. I reckon she's just cursed, brought death upon her own mother and brother, and now she's ended up with nothing good herself. Our sons had rotten luck running into that mother-daughter pair. Here he is pushing 40, and still no children to warm his home. Old man, there's no hiding it now. Our Qin Rui has a son, that Lin Lan bore him. The mother-in-law glanced around shiftily before whispering into the father-in-law's ear. He's already 6 months old, looks exactly like Qin Rui did at that age. 6 months, father-in-law gasped. So Yingtao's mother was already pregnant before she passed. Exactly, that's why Qin Rui and I kept it under wraps. We were afraid you might slip up. But, what if the in-laws find out? How would we ever explain this? So now we must take this secret to the grave. Floating midair, I listened to their conversation with a calmness that shocked even myself. I'd always assumed Lin Lan and Qin Rui only got together after my death. How naive and foolish I was. When Lin Lan came to Beijing and I invited her to stay at my place, she and Qin Rui must have already been carrying on behind my back. Honestly, I don't really care about that anymore. I'm just terribly worried about little Cherry, but I couldn't get into the ICU, so I had no choice but to keep waiting outside. As days passed, my in-laws gradually stopped coming. Qin Rui used to visit once a week, but gradually it became fortnightly, then monthly. I overheard nurses calling Qin Rui repeatedly, urging him to renew the medical payments. Later, my daughter was moved out of the ICU, tubes covering her body as she lay in the cold, chaotic hospital corridor. No one from the Qin family came, nor did they continue the medical payments. She might have had a glimmer of hope, but it was snuffed out by her own flesh and blood. 19. Little Cherry slept soundly, peaceful and well-behaved. I kept vigil by her bedside, longing to stroke her tiny face, yet even this simplest of wishes remained beyond my reach. 3 more days passed, and my elderly mother came to the hospital. She used her life savings to pay for Cherry's medical bills, but it was just a drop in the bucket. My heart shattered seeing Mother's gaunt, weathered face and eyes swollen like walnuts. They've complained about me countless times, yet in the end, they accepted my choices unconditionally, worrying themselves sick over me as their only child. Now that I'm gone, who will care for them in their old age? Mother sat by Cherry's bedside, wiping her tears while murmuring incessantly, my dear Yingtao, your grandma is getting old and frail, your mother's gone, and your grandpa's bedridden now. He can't come see you, but you're always in his heart. I'm just a helpless old woman, couldn't make enough to save you. Oh, how I wish I could bear this pain for you, how I wish I could lie here in your place. I'm dead inside, can't even shed a tear. My dearest ones are right before my eyes, yet I can't even give them a comforting hug as I watch them suffer. Why must those who've done no wrong face such a cruel fate? Meanwhile, Qin Rui and Lin Lan enjoy the warmth of family with their children and parents. Didn't Liang Zhouyuan promise me that good people always get their just rewards? Didn't he tell me to trust him? Perhaps it was because I thought of Liang Zhouyuan. I actually saw him at the hospital at that moment. I thought it was just my imagination, but when he stood by Cherry's bedside, I gazed at his handsome yet travel-worn face, momentarily unable to believe my eyes. He bent down and gently stroked Cherry's little face. It seemed he whispered her name again, but all I caught was the faintest murmur of Cherry. I followed him, watching as he went through the transfer procedures for Cherry, watched him carefully load Cherry into the ambulance for transfer, saw him negotiating with Qin Rui, who came rushing over upon hearing the news, witnessed Qin Rui putting on a theatrical display of his hardships while shirking responsibility. Only at the very end did Liang Zhouyuan finally speak his sole sentence. The Qin family need not concern themselves with little Cherry's treatment and rehabilitation anymore. I'll cover all her medical expenses. Even if she remains bedridden for life, I'll care for her until the day Liang Zhouyuan departs this world. 20. True to his word, he devoted nearly all his attention to little Cherry's treatment and recovery. Then, half a year later, the miracle finally happened. My little Cherry woke up, and gradually even managed to mumble a few indistinct words. Another long 6 months passed, and she could even stand for a few seconds with the nurse's support. During this year and more, Liang Zhouyuan secretly pursued another matter. He was investigating the truth behind Cherry's fall from the building. Persistence pays off. He actually managed to uncover some crucial clues. That year, the nationally shocking case of the siblings' fatal fall was raging across the internet. Even a ghost like me had heard about it. I just never imagined Qin Rui could be so heartless as to harm his own daughter. My little Cherry didn't accidentally fall from the windowsill. She was thrown down by her own father. Qin Rui and Lin Lan testified. The only reason he committed such an unthinkable act was because little Cherry kept crying for her mother. He tried to make Cherry accept Lin Lan, but every meeting ended in discord. Lin Lan grew increasingly resentful. Even at 7 months pregnant, she threatened to abort the baby and break up with Qin Rui. When little Cherry cried for me yet again, Qin Rui momentarily lost control and lashed out. He was arrested for intentional homicide. Lin Lan was acquitted and released. After all, regarding the little Cherry incident, while Lin Lan had complained about the girl disliking her, she never instigated Qin Rui to take any action. Qin Rui was taken into police custody. His parents collapsed from the shock and both fell ill. Lin Lan sold her property and took her son back to their hometown. Tragically, they had an accident on the highway during the journey. It was at this moment that it suddenly dawned on me why Liang Zhouyuan had so solemnly assured me that good deeds would be rewarded and evil would meet its retribution. So this was how our previous life ended. 3 years later, my little Cherry regained her health and returned to school. Seeing her run and jump around again was absolutely heartwarming, and I, who had been drifting through time for years, could finally let go of this lingering worry for my daughter. Went back to Liang Zhouyuan's side. 21. Actually, I was only unconscious for half a day, but Liang Zhouyuan was clearly terrified. I've never seen anyone so clingy in my life. If it weren't for bathroom trips that he couldn't handle for me, I wouldn't need to take a single step. You're going to spoil me rotten like this. I lounged in bed sipping bubble tea, munching fried chicken, cozied under a throw blanket while binge-watching shows. Between his busy schedule, Liang Zhouyuan would still swing by occasionally to hand-feed me freshly washed and cut fruits. If I turn into a spoiled brat who can't lift a finger, don't come crying to me. Did I marry a wife just to make her do chores and treat her like a maid? Liang Zhouyuan brought the watermelon to my lips. I froze in stunned silence. So marriage means turning myself into an overworked, unpaid maid. When did I lose myself completely and become nothing but the Qin's personal assistant? Sometimes I'd feel wronged and resentful, but Qin Rui would always sweet-talk me. Ying, I'm doing this for our future, to give our child a head start in life, so just bear with it a little longer. These hardships and sacrifices lasted over a decade. Later, when he made money, we upgraded to a mansion and luxury cars, yet I still couldn't bring myself to spend on luxuries, revolving around the kids and kitchen. Ying, I just want you to live each day happily. Liang Zhouyuan wiped the juice from the corner of my mouth with a tissue. Keep watching your show for now, he said. I'll take you out for a walk once I finish up here. 22. At 22, Liang Zhouyuan and I got our marriage certificate. Our wedding was scheduled for October. Right after my graduation, Liang Zhouyuan took me to pay respects at his mother's grave. We showed Mom our marriage certificate. Mom, I promised to treat Liang Zhouyuan with all the love and care he deserves. I'll always be by his side, he'll never have to face life alone again. Mom, I've married that lovely girl you always adored. I know you'd be so happy for us if you were here. Just the girl Mom liked. I shot him a glare. Visibly annoyed, Liang Zhouyuan took my hand, clasping it tightly in his palm. I've loved them too. For many, many years. I knew it. You've wanted to marry me since we were kids. I nestled into his arms as he smiled and kissed my forehead, whispering, so this is how childhood dreams come true. How does it feel? Like waking from the most beautiful dream. 23. That year at 24, I was expecting. Liang Zhouyuan was more tense than ever before. I noticed he often suffered from insomnia at night, just sitting by the bed watching me. Sometimes he'd hold my hand, his whole body trembling slightly. I tried comforting him, but it barely helped. Even though every prenatal checkup showed I was in perfect health, the doctor kept telling him to relax, yet he'd still wake up startled from nightmares later. I accompanied him on a trip to Puji Temple. We went to draw fortune sticks, and got the luckiest possible omen. A kind-faced old monk told us we'd been married for 3 lifetimes and would grow old together. After returning from Puji Temple, he slept noticeably more soundly, but during my 3rd trimester when my belly grew large, his nighttime restlessness returned. Helpless, I could only anxiously wait for the pregnancy to end and our child to arrive. Just let my Liang Zhouyuan get a good night's sleep. In those final 2 weeks, Liang Zhouyuan was practically losing his mind. He'd lost nearly 15 pounds. Work became impossible, so he took leave just to focus on being with me. Half asleep, I heard him calling my name, Ying. I responded groggily, feeling his hand tighten around mine. Let's just have this one child, no more after this. I'm terrified, darling. You can't even imagine how scared I am. I had a vague suspicion about something. Perhaps Liang Zhouyuan came from another world, just like me, but I kept that question to myself. The fate of that other world is sealed beyond our reach, but in this world, Liang Zhouyuan and I are bound for a lifetime together. I gave birth to a beautiful daughter at 40. My postpartum recovery went poorly after childbirth, leaving my health permanently compromised. Liang Zhouyuan held her for a moment, then placed her on the crib before coming to embrace me. Honey, let's call her Little Cherry, shall we? I looked at him and smiled brightly. Little Cherry, what a lovely name. I adore cherries. So do I. He held me tight, slowly lowering his head to press a kiss on my lips. Little Cherry in her swaddle wiggled her tiny hands, blinking awake to see her parents sharing a kiss. With a sweet smile lingering on her lips, she drifted back to sleep. Seems our little angel is quite pleased with the parents she chose from heaven. The end. Story 2. The school bully knocked over concentrated sulfuric acid in the lab during a fight with my childhood friend. I got half my face disfigured saving him. He promised to love me forever, then turned around and told the transfer student, her disfigured face looks like a toad, makes me sick to my stomach. I died a miserable death in the end, while he took my family fortune and became the transfer student's partner alongside the school bully, achieving their twisted threesome fantasy. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of his fight. I watched as sulfuric acid splashed across his face, his body writhing in agony on the ground. This time, it was his turn for a mental breakdown. Today marks 5 years since Su Yan and I got married. After our argument, I stormed out only to run into muggers. The man before me snorted and drew his knife. Strings of crimson blood droplets fell as I slumped against the wall, burning with resentment. I glared wide-eyed at the man before me. What the fuck you looking at, with a face that ugly? No wonder someone wants you dead. Enough, let's go. Young Master Su is waiting for the results. Young Master Su Yan, did he send someone to kill me? Do we still need photos? Stop, this face is terrifying enough. The others left, leaving me alone in the crumbling alley. I closed my eyes in bitter resignation, only to become a ghost after death, watching Su Yan become Jiangyu's lover, sharing her with her husband. Jiangyu gave birth to triplets, with the children calling both men daddy and papa. The sight of their blissful domestic harmony drove my resentment to its peak before darkness swallowed my vision. Su Yan and Qiyi are brawling in the chemistry lab. My eyes flew open, only to find Jiangyu standing before me. She still looked youthful in her school uniform, pure as a jasmine blossom, yet a fleeting glint of jealousy flashed through her eyes. Did I just reincarnate in my past life? I heeded her words and rushed over, just in time to push Su Yan away when they knocked over the concentrated sulfuric acid. Even the school bully Qiyi scrambled back in panic, leaving me as the sole victim of disfigurement as I endured the agony of sulfuric acid eating through my flesh. The ambulance carried me away while those two groveled apologetically around the transfer student. I later learned they'd brawled because both wanted to be Jiangyu's escort at the school festival. On the day of the festival, while I underwent skin graft surgery in hiding, Jiangyu made a dazzling entrance arm in arm With both of them at the ball with my tragic example as a warning, the two realized their feud would only end in mutual destruction. Under Jiang Yu's mediation, they reached a peaceful agreement, and the three lived happily together. After my death, my parents died in a car accident while rushing to see me. The Su family fortune fell entirely into Su Yan's hands, who used it to fund a lavish three-way wedding ceremony. This time, I won't let any of them escape. Just like in my past life, I scrambled to my feet and rushed toward the laboratory under Jiang Yu's knowing gaze too. Just like in my past life, when I pushed through the crowd and arrived, Su Yan was grappling with Qi Yi against the reagent cabinet. The sulfuric acid bottle on the top shelf tilted and toppled over. Amid the panicked screams around us, I lunged forward, but this time, my target was Qi Yi. "Stop fighting," shouting those words while charging at Su Yan. I accidentally slipped and bumped into Qi Yi's back, cutting off his escape route in one swift move. Just before the impact, he looked up and saw the tilting liquid, letting out an instinctive scream of terror. The spilled liquid splashed not only on Su Yan's face but also into Qi Yi's mouth before he could close it. "Happy now? If you love it this much, you'd better be ready to face the consequences." A disfigured one, a mute, and a white lotus. What a perfect match. Everyone around saw that I only slipped while trying to break up the fight. I collided with Qi Yi and fell backward, my elbow hitting the cold lab floor. The pain made me want to grimace, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away from those two. Ah! Su Yan collapsed to his knees instantly, writhing in agony as he curled into himself. His hands hovered helplessly near the source of pain, too terrified to touch, screaming in horror. Just like in my past life. Back then, Qi Yi had even casually pulled out his phone to record the scene. This time, he knelt on the ground with bloodshot eyes, clutching his throat as his lips trembled, barely managing to choke out half a sentence. A few drops of sulfuric acid dripped onto his chin, eating through the skin and raising blisters. My throat. Watching their agony filled me with unprecedented exhilaration. "Love each other. Isn't that what you wanted? May the three of you cherish this love for eternity." Jiang Yu arrived just in time to witness the scene. The two most promising students had met with disaster. The female lead turned pale with shock, standing frozen at the sidelines. My classmates helped me up from behind as I clutched my bruised elbow, struggling to maintain order. "Class rep, go get the teacher, quick." Everyone step back. "Don't touch them, go get water, now." Under my direction, the crowd calmed down and began moving with orderly precision. Akino struggled to stand, attempting to approach Jiang Yue when she recoiled instinctively at the acid-scarred ruin of his face, then suddenly seized my injured arm. The pain made me gasp. "Saran, why didn't you save him? Even if Shuyan doesn't like you, he's still your childhood friend. How could you be so heartless as to just let him die?" Before she could finish, I slapped her across the face. The room fell dead silent. She clutched her cheek, staring at me with wounded eyes. "I'm not their damn mother. Whatever happened when those two decided to brawl in the lab has absolutely nothing to do with me. Got it? Instead of blaming me, why don't you ask what started their fight? The real culprit is whoever provoked them in the first place. Besides, if you cared so much about them, why didn't you break it up yourself? Why drag me all the way over here?" As I finished speaking, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wasn't it Jiang Yu who caused Su Yan and Qi Yi to fight? Didn't Jiang Yu come running back from the lab just now? She didn't even try to stop them and just ran back here. Jiang Yu never expected things to turn out this way. 3. I always turned a blind eye to her provocations in front of me. As Su Yan put it, "Saran, you have everything. You could never understand Jiang Yu's struggles. She worked so hard just to share the same classroom with you. Can't you let her be?" I glanced down at my 5-figure shoes and 6-figure outfit, then nodded solemnly. I never gave her a hard time. Little did I know that while man harbors no ill will toward the tiger may still seek to harm man. "Here's the water," a classmate brought over a small bottle of water. Jiang Yu quickly snatched it, rushed nervously to Su Yan, while still managing to explain the situation to Qi Yi, who happened to pass by. "A Yan's injuries are more severe. Qi, wait a moment." With great effort, she twisted open the small water bottle, ignoring the protests behind her, and poured it over Su Yan's face. Adding water to concentrated sulfuric acid dilutes it into dilute sulfuric acid, releasing substantial heat. The amount of water she poured was insufficient for rinsing, only further diluting the acid. As the water touched Su Yan's face, predictably, he let out a scream and knocked over the bottle with one hand, sending Jiang Yu stumbling backward in alarm. A Yan, what's wrong?" "I'm sorry, I didn't know how to help you." Su Ran refused to, her voice quivered with unmistakable hurt, but this time, Su Yan had no attention left for her distress. I rolled my eyes behind their backs, watching their miserable state with indescribable Satisfaction, the teacher arrived in a hurry and promptly arranged for them to be taken to the hospital. As the ambulance drove off, some of us bystanders kindly waved it goodbye when someone beside me asked, Su Yan's already at the hospital, aren't you going? What am I going there for? Aren't you and Su Yan? It suddenly dawned on me how his constant attentiveness since childhood had created misunderstandings. Oh, most of his family company's orders come from mine. His father just told him to butter me up, that's all. The Su family had more children than just Su Yan, in my past life. He married me, and my parents felt guilty about my disfigurement, bending over backwards to coax him into treating me well. We showered him with money and resources, only to raise an ungrateful wretch. I used to save his dignity by telling people he was my childhood guardian. Now, he's nothing but trash. After seeing them off, the fury still coursed through my veins uncontrollably. I'm not letting Qi or Jiangyu off the hook either, Su Yan included. Unlike the Su family, the Qi family has only one heir, Qi inherited bipolar disorder, a condition with low genetic odds that he somehow managed to draw the short straw on. The Qi family turned a blind eye to his many transgressions, fully aware of his condition. Now that their precious only son has suffered severe injuries over some nobody woman, the Qi family will make Jiangyu pay dearly. I turned to see Jiangyu fidgeting in her seat behind me, her eyes briefly lifting to meet my gaze just as she was about to approach. The classroom door burst open with a violent kick. Which one's Jiangyu? You're coming with us. They were from the Qi family. As Jiangyu stood up, two men immediately rushed over and roughly dragged her to the classroom door. She screamed, "It wasn't me. Su Ran was involved too. She's the one who pushed Qi." For the men holding her froze as the Qi family steward stepped forward and slapped her across the face. "How dare you slander Miss Su like that?" Jiangyu's eyes burned with unmistakable resentment and injustice. I said softly, "It's been a while since I last visited Uncle Qi. Since I happened to witness today's incident, I might as well come along." The butler bowed slightly and, with a smile that defied Jiangyu's murderous glare, gestured for me to lead the way. Does she really think everyone in this world would adore her like those two idiots? When Jiangyu and I arrived at the hospital, Su Yan was just being wheeled out unconscious. Bandages covered half his face down to the neck, a truly ghastly sight. Thanks to Jiangyu's watering, he looked even worse than I had in my past life. I was secretly thrilled, though I couldn't help furrowing my brows. Mrs. Su mistook my expression for concern and took my hand, saying, "Xiao Su, the doctor said multiple reconstructive surgeries will fix this," but I knew better. They wouldn't. In my past life, my parents spent a fortune on my surgeries, yet my face remained scarred and pitted. She never once held my hand back then. She'd glare at me and sneer, "Looking like that, you shouldn't even show your face in public. If it weren't for my son, who'd ever marry you?" I instantly pulled my hand away with icy detachment. I said, "Su Yan got into that fight with Qi over some girl he was obsessed with. That sulfuric acid bottle he knocked over didn't just ruin his own life, it destroyed Qi's too. He's so deeply in love." "I won't interfere." Mrs. Su was at a loss for words. She'd known about Su Yan and Jiangyu's school affairs but never paid them much mind. "So you're saying I got dragged into this because of Su Yan?" At the Qi family's questioning, Mrs. Su rushed to defend her son. "No, this was just an accident. That girl stirred up trouble and sowed discord between us." As she spoke, she turned and slapped Jiangyu behind her, knocking her to the ground. "How dare you seduce someone at such a young age? Know your place." The Qi and Su families needed a scapegoat, and with Jiangyu's two protectors unable to come to her rescue, she was in for a world of hurt. I followed procedure to give my statement to the police. The lab surveillance clearly shows those two were fighting over Jiangyu, and I rushed in panically just to break it up. It was pure accident that I slipped and bumped into Qi during the chaos. The sulfuric acid bottle got knocked over by Su Yan himself. That's their liability. Nothing to do with me. Even if there were some involvement, given our business ties, neither family would dare press charges against me. No idea how they're settling it between themselves, but the Su family's recent downward spiral is rather satisfying to witness. Jiangyu had been taken away by the Su family and hadn't attended classes for a week. A few days later, after repeated invitations from Mr. Su, I finally paid a visit to the Su residence. Su Yan went mad after waking up and seeing his reflection in the mirror. Now he's completely dependent on sedatives, with no energy left to care about Jiangyu. 5. When I arrived, the moment I stepped through the door, I heard noises coming from the second floor. This wasn't supposed to happen. "Mom, where's Su Ran? She should be the disfigured one. I need to see her. I demand to see her. Did he get reborn too?" Pausing at the staircase, I remembered the argument between Su Yan and him before Jiang Yu and Qi Yi registered their marriage in my past life after I died. Why do you get to register with Yaya? What about me? We promised to share everything equally. Qi couldn't even be bothered to glance his way. After my death, the Su family collapsed, leaving the Qi family as the undisputed powerhouse. You're a married man, or do you want twice divorced as your permanent label? But, if you hadn't married Saran and had her killed, the Qi family wouldn't dominate now. Qi tugged at his tie impatiently. So what? I'm no saint, but neither are you. Without Saran, you'd have been disfigured and out of the game long ago. What gives you the right to challenge me now? Su Yan lowered his head in silence for a long moment before speaking. Tigerbot document anti-piracy. Choose little tiger for bookfinding bots. Reliable heavy checkmark. No pitfalls. Numb with pain where I stood. I still heard him whisper after Chia left. I know. I don't regret it. My heart was shattered with pain. I could have skinned him alive back then, yet now, I lightly step up the stairs with his rebirth too. Many things actually became easier to handle. Su Yan, rest assured, I won't let you be eliminated. Between Jiang Yu and Qi Yi, how could I bear to leave you out of this? You must go. I'll definitely help you. I'll make you taste all the suffering from my past life, and even help you kill them with your own hands. When I entered, Su Yan's entire head was wrapped up after reconstructive surgery, leaving only his eyes exposed. Suran, why won't you save me, you bitch? His eyes were bloodshot when old Su's slap cut off his words mid-sentence. Fresh blood seeped through the gauze. Su Yan stared at his father in disbelief, clearly still struggling to process his current predicament. Dad, you hit me. What's gotten into you? Do you even know who you're talking to, mister? Su invited me here precisely to see if I'd help the Su family out of old friendship. Xiao Ran, don't be angry. Yan's been emotional ever since his face got disfigured. He didn't mean it. He began to grasp the situation and offered an apology through gritted teeth. I nodded in agreement. Ran, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Only after everyone left did he finally look up and ask me, Su Ran, why didn't you save me back then? He asked as if it were the most natural thing in the world, making me seem like some unforgivable villain. Suppressing the surging hatred, I spoke with feigned concern as usual, even squeezing out a tear at the corner of my eye. How could I not save you? I was already rushing over, but then I bumped into Shino and couldn't reach you in time. I said with deliberate regret. You say you were already coming for me. His eyes darkened instantly. During those years as Jiang Yu's subordinate, Chiya's worsening bipolar disorder had taken its toll on him. I nodded. The constant verbal abuse. Why wasn't it you who got disfigured and kicked out? How dare a dimwit like you challenge me? For secure document protection, choose Xiao, who bought reliable, stable, and scam-free. Floating beside him, I saw the truth. His compliance was merely skin deep. How disgusting when a man bites a dog. Now 2 dogs fighting. That's entertainment. Heard that Aikino barged in the other day and kidnapped Jiang Yue, who was visiting. TSK, even pushed the poor auntie down while shouting something about. I trailed off deliberately, baiting his anger. Last lifetime, Aikino got Monday, Wednesday, Friday while he didn't even get Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That pathetic second fiddle existence of his was downright satisfying. What did he say? For secure document protection against piracy, choose Xiao, who bought reliable, trustworthy, and guaranteed to steer you clear of pitfalls. No output as the provided text is empty or contains only a non-printing character. I lowered my head and whispered, Aikino said your disfigurement makes you worthless now, that you can't compete with him anymore. But don't overthink it. Modern medicine can fix anything. You'll recover. Will I? Though, of course not. He remembers exactly how hideous my face was in my past life. He turned his back on me, cursing bitterly. Chino, I'm already back. There's no way he wouldn't be. He's doing this on purpose. I watched his meltdown from behind. He spun around and grabbed me, pleading desperately. Ran, you still love me, right? You'll help me, won't you? Please contact Dr. Song Yu abroad for me. Please, Song Yu, that two-faced expert my father paid a fortune for in my past life. The very same snake the Su family bought off. I've already arranged it. They're on their way. Relax. Every wrong you did to me in our past life, I'll return in kind. During the anniversary gala, I stood bored in my evening gown scanning the hall, until the auditorium doors suddenly burst open. Jiang Yu appeared in a white cocktail dress, a gemstone necklace around her neck, gracefully holding Chiya's arm. 6. Even her heavy makeup couldn't conceal her pallor. The torture she endured at the Su residence must have been severe. Everyone knew how Chiyi stormed into the Su household after regaining consciousness to reclaim her. Ah, love, how profoundly moving it can be. I sighed wistfully when suddenly a voice chimed in behind me. From another perspective, it's utterly foolish, don't you think? I turned to see Lu Yuanzhou. The frail young master of the Lu family possessed surprisingly gentle features. He tilted his head slightly with a light cough before stepping forward. Miss Su, care to collaborate? After all, dying a miserable death in my past life wasn't exactly pleasant. I shot him a piercing glance, to which he responded with a faint, apologetic smile. What I meant was, my own miserable death in the previous life wasn't exactly a walk in the park either. As the music began, he extended his hand toward me. Care to dance, Miss Su? I placed my hand in his. Dr. Song hadn't arrived yet, but Su Yan couldn't wait. My hints had convinced him that Chia's return would inevitably force him out. He returned to school with his face wrapped in bandages, leaving Jiang Yu momentarily stunned when she saw him. 7. Yeah, did you miss me? Why didn't you come visit me? Jiang Yu stood frozen in place. Without me around to mediate between those three this lifetime, she's really struggling to balance both relationships. She clearly looked troubled when Chia emerged behind her and pulled her into an embrace. Get lost. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Su Yan, you really think you can compete with me looking like that? His voice was still hoarse, coming out in broken fragments, and the strain of speaking only worsened his irritation. After speaking, Chia casually pushed the person aside and pulled Jiang Yue toward the classroom standing behind Xuyan. I clearly saw Jiang Yue glance back, her delicate face etched with helplessness, as if she were utterly reluctant. Ran, Dr. Song is on his way, right? Of course. He turned back, his bandaged eyes shadowed with gloom. Ran, help me bring Dr. Song here. In return, I'll help you outbid the Chi family for the South District project. Deal. My eyes flickered. In my past life, the Chi family had secured this project. After completing the commercial street, they reaped enormous profits and permanently overshadowed the Su family. I don't know how the Chi family secured it, but Su Yan knew. They'd been sharing resources since that point. The Su family lacks the capability for this project. He's trying to use me as leverage to suppress the Kais. A slow smile spread across my face as I pulled out my phone and dialed my father right in front of him. Dad, is Dr. Song on his way? Could you hurry him along? The call ended as I flashed him a radiant smile. Don't worry, Yan, I've got your back. Straight to your doom with that face of his. Su Yan finally experienced the same scornful looks I endured in my past life. People may not say it out loud, but their judging eyes speak volumes. Jiang Yu especially took advantage of my hospitalization to spread rumors at school, claiming Su Yan had rejected me multiple times, and that I deliberately let myself get hurt to guilt-trip him. After returning, I endured not just contemptuous stares but covert verbal bullying lurking in the shadows. Su Yan clearly loves Jiang Yu. After scheming to make yourself this pathetic, do you really think he'd ever love you? Pathetic love addict. Can't live without a man for a second. Stay away from her. That scar on her face is disgusting. The torment drove me to breaking point. I often hid alone in the stairwell, until one day I overheard Jiang Yu say tearfully, Brother Su, you're already engaged to Su Ran. Please stop coming to see me. Su Yan pulled her into a protective embrace, his heart aching. Engagement. The sight of her face makes me sick. Yeah, wait for me. Once I marry her and secure the Su family's support and the Su family's power, no one will stand in our way. In my devastation, I rushed out and attacked them, only for Su Yan to personally shove me down the stairs. My freshly reconstructed face was torn apart again. Later, Su Yan told my parents I'd accidentally fallen. He even threatened to call off the engagement if I didn't admit to it. I was so foolish back then. After my face was ruined, my self-esteem hit rock bottom. After struggling with it, I eventually gave in this time. Without me as their cover, the relationship between those three was already exposed to the public. Isn't Jiang Yu into Qi Yi? Weren't they already together? Why's he butting in? Are Jiang Yu and Qi Yi dating? You didn't know, they were together the whole night at the school anniversary dance. Su Yan listened. Then during break when Chia was away, he grabbed Jiang Yu and pulled her into the stairwell. With nothing better to do, I waited outside the restroom for Chia out of sheer goodwill. Su ran, ate. Without a word, I slapped him across the face, so satisfying. Just as he was about to lay hands on me, I took a step back and said indignantly, it was clearly Brother Xuyan who fell for Jiang Yu first. He even got disfigured for her. How could you take advantage of his misfortune? I've already found the most renowned Dr. Song for Brother Xuyan. Once his face heals, Jiang Yu will only have eyes for him. I sounded like some lovesick fool from a romance novel fighting for their beloved. My dramatic outburst actually made him laugh. You're really hung up on him. But how do you know Jiang Yu doesn't actually like me? I said smugly. If she liked you, Why would she be sneaking around with Su Yan in the stairwell right now? If she truly wanted you, why didn't she choose you before Su Yan got disfigured? Jiang Yu had been stringing both guys along for too long. That last incident forced her to pick Qi Yi for self-preservation, but now her balancing act was about to collapse. Qi Yi stormed over with a dark expression, and I followed close behind. Just as I reached the door, I overheard Xu Yan's accusatory questions. You're with him now, then what about me? He forced you into this, didn't he? Jiang Yu replied softly but firmly. Stop asking, Ian, you know I'm different from you people. I've never had the right to choose. Listening from behind, I nearly laughed. No right to choose, but all too willing to share. With a frosty expression, Chia kicked open the stairwell door. Jiang Yu's delicate face froze for an instant before flashing with panic, as if weighing the odds between them. Then she suddenly threw herself into Chia's arms. Don't misunderstand. Su Yan was just emotional. I was only comforting him. My voice came from behind, laced with quiet intensity. What's there to fear, Jiang? Didn't you tell me yourself that Su Yan's the one who makes you feel most special? Now that we're all here, just say it plainly. I spoke with righteous conviction. While classmates behind me watched the scene curiously, my resolute gaze filled Su Yan with confidence. That's right, yeah, tell him bravely, it's me you love. Su Yan grabbed Jiang Yu's left hand, while Qi Yi, refusing to be outdone, seized her right. The two kept tugging her back and forth like a human tug-of-war. Jiang Yu shot me a resentful glare before dramatically swooning with closed eyes as she fainted. Chia rushed to catch her while Xu Yan refused to back down. In their struggle, Chia shoved him. I was close enough to stop his fall, but chose not to. I watched coldly as he tumbled down, still clutching Jiang Yu's wrist, who in turn held on to Chia. With perfect timing, I accidentally stuck out my foot, sending all three crashing down together. Xu Yan got dragged away again, his bandages soaked with blood. The other two escaped relatively unscathed, brimming with silent delight. I turned, only to meet Jiang Yu's piercing gaze. Su Ran, you did that on purpose. I arched my eyebrow, mimicking the tone of a villainess from a drama. Of course I did. How dare you chase after others when brother Su Yan adores you so much? You betrayed him first. You deserve to be knocked down. Jiang Yu visibly let her guard down, a flash of triumph in her eyes before she put on a pitiful act. I know you like him. I didn't mean to. With no one around, she whispered in my ear. What can you possibly do, Saran? He only likes me. Both of them only want me. How pathetic. Nobody loves you. I stared at her calmly, completely unfazed, then grabbed her hair and slammed her to the ground, punching her. Love this, love that. Are you brain damaged? Can't survive without a man's affection. Newsflash, not everyone's as pathetic as you. Disgusting. Su Yan's rehabilitation this time will take months. They even arranged secret treatment for him. He still hasn't returned, even after everyone graduated. During these months he's been away. We've actually stayed in touch. Not just that, we even got engaged. 9. He thinks I'm still hopelessly in love with him like in my past life, planning to use me to suppress the Chi family before swallowing my assets after marriage. But that's all just wishful thinking on his part. Thanks to him, the Su family snatched several of the Chi family's contracts, not just the South District project. To show my sincerity, I occasionally crash Qi Yi and Jiang Yu's dates, just to make sure they don't progress too fast. Wouldn't want Su Yan to return to find himself completely irrelevant. Right after graduation, I took over the company, drawing from my past life's memories. I rooted out several traders in advance, built close ties with the Chi family, and became the hottest commodity in our circle. Lu Yuanzhou was sitting across from me, sliding a proposal my way when he called directly to say he was being discharged from the hospital. Miss Su, you're nearly ready. Isn't it time to bring this childhood friends act to an end? I studied the strategy document he'd handed me, the final blow against the Su family. Just wait a bit longer. How could we end this without a gift? We exchanged knowing smiles. The next day, the proposal materialized on Aikino's desk. Miss Su, what's the meaning of this? Sitting across, I glanced at Jiang Yu standing behind Chia, quite different from how she was treated in my past life. Last time around, Chia was too busy competing with Su Yan for her affections, treating her like fragile porcelain. Would he ever have let her work as an assistant? Love only shows its true depth when there's comparison, partnership. Isn't it obvious? Ikuno leaned back and put on his glasses with an air of affected sophistication. Cooperation, after your Su family snatched so many projects from me. Now you want to collaborate, in business. What's this talk of snatching? The victor is always decided by capability, wouldn't you agree, President Ikuno? His gaze turned sharp, but seeing my unwavering composure, He casually flipped open the proposal. The matters we're about to discuss require privacy, Secretary Jiang. Wouldn't you agree it's best for outsiders to leave? Jiang Yu glared at me resentfully. Ever since I punched her that one time, she'd been taking detours to avoid me. I'm Ice girlfriend, Miss Sue. There's no need for you to concern yourself. She wore a smug expression, her eyes practically shouting, see, I'm doing just fine. Chia dotes on me, but it was Aikino who spoke up. Why don't you step outside for a moment? I gave her a faint smile. Jianyua shot me an awkward glance before tugging at Aikino's sleeve. Aikino. Ikuno snapped impatiently, get out. The Chi family had been severely weakened by my precise strikes with Su Yan's help, desperately needing to recover. With Akuno's hot temper and the company to manage, who had time to coddle her? Look at this. The woman he'd loved enough to share in his past life became worthless without competition. After Jiang Yu left, Chia took off his glasses and fixed me with a piercing glare. Going after the Su family? Do you really have the heart? Su ran. Everyone knows you're in love with him. Did you really think I'd fall into this trap so easily? I casually tossed him a few photos from my bag. They showed Su Yan mid-recovery, his face not only pockmarked but also covered in grotesque tumors and scars, barely recognizable as human. This is all thanks to Chiya's doing, paying top dollar to bribe Dr. Song. Now only Su Yan himself is receiving this secret treatment, deluded into thinking he's recovering. While everyone else has long given up on him, the Su family had already brought their illegitimate child back home. That marriage contract only specified the Su and Su families, never mentioned which Su it referred to. When it comes to cruelty, I'm no match for President Xi, though I must admit, I'm not as devoted as you assumed. Frankly, staring at this face might ruin my appetite. Xi chuckled lightly, his gaze laced with amusement. Back in the lab that day, you bumped into me on purpose, didn't you? Everyone thinks you love him, but Su ran. I believe you don't love anyone, not even Lu Xingzhou hovering around you. He was right. If I had to live my life over, I wouldn't love anyone. It was precisely this absence of love that made our collaboration possible. 10 When I left the office, Jiang Yu was already waiting at the door. Only when she saw me emerge did she finally relax. Su ran. Don't waste your efforts. Neither Qi nor Su Yan will ever love you. Having relied on Qi for so long, her words now lacked the conviction they once carried. Then tell me, how much do you think he truly loves you? I shot back a reply before turning away. Had she known the answer all along, she wouldn't have stood there with downcast eyes for so long. 2 weeks later, Su Yan was discharged from the hospital and reportedly went straight to find Jiang Yu without a moment's delay. Jiang Yu had just gotten off work that day while Chia was tied up with work. As she walked alone back to her apartment through the motion-activated hallway lights, Su Yan called her name from behind. The moment she turned around, she fainted dead away from sheer terror. Rumor has it his last words before passing out were, a ghost. Su Yan wouldn't give up and kept going back, only to get publicly berated by Jiang Yu in front of Qi. Things even escalated into a physical altercation between them. Qi seemed furious. He's been accelerating his plans these days. With the Su family stocks plummeting, it's time I publicly announce the termination of our engagement. I even made a special trip with Lu Xingzhou to visit him at the Su residence. Thanks to his past life's misdeeds, I still thoroughly enjoy playing this game of kicking a man when he's down with him. When I entered, Su Yan sat on the floor, his face twisted with such hatred it was hard to look at. Father, you've lost your senses. I'm the rightful heir to the Su family. Don't forget, Su Ran will only marry me. Arm in arm with Lu Xingzhou. I walked in just in time to hear those words. Really, how come I didn't know about this? Su Yan turned around, his gaze turning incredulous the moment it landed on Lu Xingzhou. Su Ran, what are you doing with him? Now that he's lost Jiang Yu, he suddenly remembers to cling to me. His last hook to power. Ran, don't you love me anymore? It's me, Su Yan. I finally realize you're the only one I love. Jiang Yu was just a fraud. I just covered my nose in disgust. Where did this disgusting toad crawl from? Stay away from me. Su Yan turned deathly pale but pressed on desperately. Don't you remember what you promised me? He was probably referring to the intel on the Qi family and market trends he'd shared during my treatment. What exactly did I promise you? I don't recall any such thing. Just like in our past life when I confronted him after marriage, why he'd gone back on his word after proposing. He'd said it with that condescending tone. We're adults here. Verbal promises mean nothing. Contracts are mandatory for any collaboration. Didn't you know that? I tilted my head, staring at the person on the ground as I said in confusion, I don't recall promising you anything. Between adults, formal contracts are standard practice. Are you seriously unaware of that? His eyes burned crimson with rage when suddenly, As if struck by realization, he lunged at me with a furious shout, "Something's off, I knew it, you've been reborn too, haven't you?" This was deliberate, Sue ran. "How could you be this vicious?" Before he could finish his tirade, Mr. Sue had him dragged away. The illegitimate son the Sue family had taken back instead politely inquired, "Miss Sue, shall we discuss the acquisition upstairs?" This acquisition was a joint venture between the Sue and Chi families. I added one more condition to my deal with the Sue family, to banish Sue Yin from the household, making it clear this was Chia's only demand. 11. As my words faded, I distinctly saw a shadow by the study door squeezing Lu Xingzhou's hand. He immediately caught my drift and shifted his tone. "Given young Master Sue's current state, second young Master Sue shouldn't forget to personally express gratitude to the Chi family. After all, bribing Dr. Song cost a fortune, and Mr. Chi also played no small part in bringing second young Master Sue back." Sue Mo nodded, speaking in an ingratiating tone. "Of course, I shall never forget Mr. Chi's assistance in this lifetime, but besides Mr. Chi, I cut him off mid-sentence. "The tea's gone cold, let's have a fresh pot brought in." "My apologies, I'll summon someone immediately." When Sue Mo opened the door, the hallway stood empty. Su Yan would never know the second half of that sentence was meant to be, "And I'm grateful to myself too." After all, I was the one who personally recommended him to Chi Yi. Without his inside help, taking down the Su family wouldn't have been this effortless. After being driven out, Su Yan reportedly got roughed up by Chi Yi's men a few times before vanishing without a trace for years. The next time I heard about him was on TV. When I was accompanying Lu Xingzhou to meet his parents, Chi Yi brought Jiang Yu to the press conference, where the assailant slipped through the chaos, doused them in gasoline, and lit a lighter. Live on air, he screamed, "Liars, you're all liars. Last lifetime I was your stepping stone. This lifetime you pushed me out. Dream on if you think you'll find happiness." The spark ignited the gasoline in an instant, engulfing the formally dressed pair in flames, leaving them in utter disarray. "This has nothing to do with me. I didn't lift a finger. Just had someone let him in, that's all." Watching Jiang Yu get disfigured and Chi Yi land in the ICU, I seized the chance. With the Lu family's backing to snap up most of the Chi shares, damn Chi Yi's tough luck, still clinging to life by a thread, had no choice but to arrange for Su Yan to get beaten half to death in prison. Young Master Su, the Chi family fell into chaos, and I seized the opportunity to make a killing. I'd planned to deal with Jiang Yu while I was at it, but after the Chi family incident, she was simply cast out. That fire left her disfigured, and what little money she had left wasn't enough for treatment. Now she's packing parcels at a delivery station, a fitting end if you ask me. I'll let her be. I never planned to get married in this lifetime, but between parental pressure and Lu Xingzhou's tireless devotion, working for me without pay, I reconsidered and ended up registering our marriage. Before signing the papers, I warned him, "I might never love you in this lifetime. Can you live with that?" To my surprise, he agreed. "We both cheated death once, no need for pretenses, just companionship will do." He's really odd. Many years later, I overheard my daughter ask, "Dad, how would you describe love?" He picked her up with a smile and said, "Love can't be captured in a single word. It's about acceptance, companionship, and weathering life's storms together. It's an action." My daughter suddenly understood. "I get it now. It's just like you and Mom." "Yes, just like Mom and Dad do." The end. Story 2. My stepbrother committed suicide, and he died in the year when our relationship was at its worst, yet he still left his billions of dollars in inheritance to me. It wasn't until I opened that charred diary that I caught a glimpse of his crazy yet restrained love. Over the years, when I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day when my male god instigated me to run away from home. "Your brother actually likes you. He's a pervert." Ignoring the male god's stunned expression, I walked straight towards my stepbrother who was standing tensely in the corner. "Brother, I'm not leaving." And he just gave a bitter smile for a moment, changing his usual gloomy and fierce demeanor. "Baby, if you're going to deceive me this time, can you make it last a little longer?" When I learned the news of Shen Huaishu's suicide, I was having an injury examination in the hospital. After getting married, Qingli suddenly changed from being gentle and elegant to being irritable and volatile, and I was trapped in the cycle of domestic violence day after day, on the verge of collapse. Qingli grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the corner of the table, his smile manic. "Over the years, if it weren't for his repeated obstruction, I would have already achieved my goal. Come on, Shen Huaishu is dead. Shouldn't you be happy? Smile, smile for me." I fell to the ground and froze. Yes, I had completely gotten rid of the pervert Shen Huaishu. I should be happy, but I couldn't force a smile. My emotions were torn in two, pulling at me painfully. The shrill exclamation of the nurse and the blinding blood on the floor seemed to fade away from my senses. There was only one thought in my mind. Shen Huaixu really seemed to be dead. Somehow finding the courage, I resisted Qing Li's beatings for the first time and stumbled towards the old mansion. The former home had been completely burned down by the fire. I pushed aside the police cordon and rushed straight to Shen Huaixu's bedroom on the second floor. Qing Li's abnormal attitude just now and Shen Huaixu's sudden self-immolation without any warning made me feel that there must be something fishy going on. I crawled on the ground with my hands and feet, searching frantically. Finally, I found Shen Huaixu's diary that he always carried with him. The pages were almost burned, giving off a pungent smell of gasoline. I opened it with trembling hands, my fingertips shaking. Every word in it was about me. It turned out that Qing Li had approached me with a purpose from the very beginning. He deliberately sowed discord between me and Shen Huaixu and kept brainwashing me. In the end, I became his tool to control the Shen family. At first, Qing Li approached Shen Huaixu in the name of his brother-in-law and brazenly asked for a large sum of money. Give me another million yuan, and I will definitely make Lily live a good life. So Shen Huaixu, a person who was usually ruthless, kept making concessions for my sake. After tasting the benefits, Qing Li became even more insatiable. When Shen Huaixu finally stopped giving him money, he sent over the intimate videos of us that we had made before. He threatened Shen Huaixu, if you don't give me the money, I'll expose these explicit videos. The ominous premonition grew stronger. I trembled as I flipped to the last page. Shen Huaixu invited Qing Li to meet at the old mansion, intending to buy the videos in his hands. He had made a thorough plan. He was going to record Qing Li's extortion during the transaction and attach the evidence of domestic violence to send him to prison once and for all. So, if that was the case, why did Shen Huaixu still choose to commit suicide? A terrifying speculation emerged in my mind. Qing Li had discovered something fishy and wanted to silence Shen Huaixu. A noisy sound of footsteps came. Qing Li suddenly kicked open the charred door, his face ferocious. Shen Huaixu actually left all his inheritance to you, even though you treated him like that. He still thought of you. I've been scheming for so many years, but I haven't gotten a single cent. Wenli, you're going to the notary office with me now and transfer the Shen family to me, otherwise, I'll beat you to death. Leaning on the floor, I struggled to get up. The diary that I hadn't finished reading was quickly closed. As I trembled, a withered pear blossom fell out. Don't even think about it, I'll beat you to death. Qing Li skillfully took out his belt and rushed towards me, shouting, you killed Shen Huaixu, right? You killed him and then. Disguised as the illusion of self-immolation, Qing Li's face twitched a bit. After being stunned for a few seconds, he laughed wildly. So what if I did? Do you have any evidence? I originally just wanted to grab the surveillance video and leave. Who knew that Shen Huaixu, that crazy bastard, refused to give it to me no matter what? So I had no choice but to stab him a few times. You know what? He was still worried about you before he died. Upon learning the truth, I collapsed to my knees, crying until I could barely breathe. Stop talking nonsense. Now that Shen Huaixu is dead, no one can protect you. Hurry up and come with me. It's impossible. I twitched the corners of my mouth, grabbed Qing Li, and calmly lit the lighter. Shen Huaixu, I was the one who hurt you in this life. I'll come down right away to apologize to you. There was an explosion, and the flames instantly engulfed my skin. I held the diary tightly and lost consciousness. Before I died, I thought sadly, Shen Huaixu, did it hurt this much for you too? At that time when I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. I went back to the day when Qing Li instigated me to run away from home. Wenli, your brother actually likes you. He's definitely a pervert, but it doesn't matter. I'll protect you. I'll take you away from here. Okay. Qing Li raised his still young face and gave me a bright smile. I was stunned for a while, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw the thin figure in the corner. Shen Huaixu's face was tense with nervousness, and his eyes were red. His slender fingers unconsciously twirled the seam of his trousers, and the neatly pressed suit quickly became wrinkled. I immediately turned cold and stepped back in disgust. My brother is not a pervert. My brother loves me the most, in my previous life. Because I couldn't accept the family restructuring, I was very Shen Huaixu, my stepbrother. It just so happened that Shen Huaixu had an extremely strong desire to control me, and his discipline towards me was strictly even to the point of being pathological. So when Qing Li exaggeratedly showed me the photos that Shen Huaixu had secretly taken, I was even more determined to run away. But Shen Huaixu lost his mind and tied me up and locked me up on the spot. Because of this, I thought even more that Shen Huaixu had ill intentions towards me. Every day, I either went on a hunger strike or threatened to jump off the building. I even pointed at his nose and cursed, "You pervert, I wish you were dead." Since then, my relationship with Shen Huaixu hit rock bottom. Qing Li took advantage of the situation and began to erode the Shin family this time around. I must not make the same mistake again. Ignoring Qing Li's stunned gaze, I bypassed him and threw myself into Shin Huaishu's arms directly. Brother, this person is speaking ill of you behind your back. I clearly felt Shin Huaishu's body stiffen, and a look of panic flashed in his usually indifferent eyes. His arms slightly lifted, forming an arc as if he wanted to hug me, but then he stopped in midair, looking a bit at a loss. That's right, at that time, I was extremely resistant to Shin Huaishu's touch and regarded him like the plague. I still remember that once during a meal, Shin Huaishu just tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. I was so angry that I rushed to the barber shop and cut my hair into a super short style. Since then, Shin Huaishu always deliberately kept a distance from me. He was so careful that it made people feel sorry for him. My heart ached, and I took the initiative to hold his wrist and press it against myself. Qing Li stared at me in disbelief and tried to pull me away. Shin Huaishu's big hand on my waist suddenly tightened, and his voice was filled with a murderous intent. What if you touch her? Qing Li was intimidated by Shin Huaishu's terrifying aura and cast a hurt look at me. I don't like you, and I don't believe your words, so please stay away from me in the future. I wasn't falling for his act and spoke on my own. Did you hear that? Get lost. Shin Huaishu parted his thin lips slightly and said calmly. Qing Li seemed to be irritated and roared defiantly. Shin Huaishu, even if Wenli doesn't leave with me, she still won't like you. Shin Huaishu paused in his steps, and the look in his eyes was dark and unclear. My sudden change of attitude without any warning was indeed suspicious. My heart immediately rose to my throat, and I quickly explained, it's not like that, But Shin Huaishu just let out a casual chuckle. The sound was very soft, as if he was trying to convince himself, if she says so, I'll believe it. Qing Li stared at me deeply for a while and then turned away. I was afraid that Shin Huaishu would misunderstand something, so I said earnestly, brother, I'm not leaving. Baby, did you see me standing there eavesdropping just now? Shin Huaishu looked desolate, and his voice was a bit unsteady. Did he think that my saying I wouldn't leave was just a delaying tactic? Yes, but enough, as if afraid that I would shatter his longed for dream. Shin Huaishu interrupted me angrily. His proud spine slumped down, as if he was suppressing great pain. I was startled by his loud voice and stood there stunned. Brother, Shin Huaishu gave a bitter smile for a moment, and his voice carried a pleading tone. Baby, if you're going to deceive me this time, can you make it last a little longer? I originally thought that this time, since I had rejected Qing Li, Shin Huaishu wouldn't restrict me anymore. Unexpectedly, Shin Huaishu was more on guard than in the previous life. After we got home, Shin Huaishu instructed his secretary to seal off the villa. Only bodyguards and trustworthy servants were left, and even the tutors were all sent away. I curled up on the sofa, feeling depressed and thinking, if I can't get out, how can I collect evidence to send that scumbag Qing Li to jail? The end of my sophomore year was also the last deadline for me to submit my application for a major transfer. Shin Huaishu helped me ask for leave from the school, and I couldn't take many exams. I had also thought that after studying finance, I could help Shin Huaishu manage the company. In my previous life, he didn't have anyone he could confide in around him, and he also had to guard against internal moles plotting against him. He was hospitalized several times due to overwork. Sit up straight, this is bad for your waist. Shin Huaishu loosened his cuffs and returned to his usual cold demeanor. I can't get up. I deliberately wanted to get closer to Shin Huaishu and opened my arms towards him. Shin Huaishu was slightly stunned, and his expression was a bit unnatural. Get up by yourself, hurry up, I want a hug. I can only get up with a hug. I softened my voice and acted coquettishly, looking at him expectantly. Shin Huaishu closed his eyes, and his breathing became heavy. Baby, don't play with me, brother, I love you, I'll be good from now on, and we'll live a good life together. I held his drooping hand and swayed it back and forth slightly. Before I died in my previous life, I finally figured out why I hated Shin Huaishu so much. It turned out that I had been suppressing my love for him. I desperately convinced myself that I wasn't a monster who liked my brother. Coupled with those misunderstandings, in the end, I fell into Qing Li's arms. Shin Huaishu seemed to have made a great determination and turned around resolutely. I won't allow you to leave with Qing Li. Don't waste your efforts. Sure enough, he still doubted my motives. It seemed that I couldn't explain it clearly in just a few words. It would be better to prove it with my actions. Without having time to put on my slippers, I ran barefoot in front of him and blocked his way. The floor is cold, you. Stepping on his leather shoes, I stood on tiptoe and clung to his broad shoulders. All of Shin Huaishu's angry words were silenced by my kiss. Our breaths intertwined, and I explored clumsily. I could clearly feel Shin Huaishu's body temperature rising, and his big hand on my back was trembling faintly. Brother, do you believe me now? I raised my head and looked at him expectantly. Shen Huaishu came to his senses and pushed me away violently. Wenli, it's really hard for you to go this far for him. There was pain suppressed in Shen Huaishu's eyes, and his tone was gloomy and fierce. Someone, lock the young lady in her bedroom and don't allow her to step out even a single step. Shen Huaishu was as angry as a lion whose territory had been invaded, letting out a terrifying roar. I completely didn't expect him to react like this and anxiously patted the door panel. Brother, believe me, why don't you believe me? Shen Huaishu let out a self-deprecating laugh, his voice broken. Baby, I have believed you too many times. I opened my mouth but couldn't find a word to refute. Yes, I had taken advantage of his trust and hurt him again and again. Shen Huaishu didn't not believe me. It was precisely because he believed me too much that he was deceived by my clumsy lies. I slid down the wall and sat on the ground, covering my face feebly. Tears seeped out from between my fingers, and my heart ached so much that I could hardly breathe. Shen Huaishu inherited the company when he was 18 years old and cleared out the opposition with thunderous means. He was always decisive outside and wouldn't allow others to challenge his authority. Yet such a person who was in control of everything unconditionally indulged me as I crossed his bottom line. He would even make excuses for me in the dead of night. I tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep. There was a soft rustling sound coming from the window, and I got up vigilantly. Who is it? It's me. Don't be afraid. Qingli climbed in through the window and walked towards me. I was startled by him and instinctively shrank back. How did you get in? This villa had strict security and was built on a remote mountainside. Qingli was alone. How could he enter my room so easily? Unless there was an insider. It seemed that Qingli was more difficult to deal with than I had imagined. This terrifying speculation flashed through my mind, and I subtly groped for the phone hidden under the pillow. Wenli, the last time you didn't leave with me, was it because you saw Shen Huaishu behind me? You're so smart, you figured it out right away. If we had torn our relationship apart on the spot, he definitely wouldn't have let us leave. There was excitement on Qingli's face, and he lowered his voice. But it doesn't matter, I have a new plan. Steal the household registration book. I'll come to pick you up tomorrow morning, and we'll go directly to register for marriage. Once we're married, no one can separate us. In my previous life, I was moved by his sweet words and impulsively got the marriage certificate. From then on, I was completely controlled by Qingli and became his bargaining chip to blackmail Shen Huaishu. Anger surged in my chest, and I couldn't wait to tear off his hideous mask right away, so I secretly pressed the recording button and forced myself to calm down. How did you get in here? Aren't you afraid that Shen Huaishu will find out? I bribed the security guards in the monitoring room. Pretty impressive, right? Looking at his self-satisfied posture, I took the opportunity to continue coaxing him. But what if Shen Huaishu catches up? What should we do then? He will definitely take revenge on us. Look, do you see this? Qingli took out a box of pills from his pocket and waved it at me. You find a way to replace the box of pills in Shen Huaishu's pocket with this one later, and everything will be fine. In my previous life, Qingli tricked me into thinking that these were just small-dose sleeping pills, but in fact, the whole box was chronic poison, and it also had the side effect of stimulating Shen Huaishu's mental illness to flare up. Shen Huaishu had no defenses against me. After taking the fake medicine, he became dazed. He got into a car accident on his way to chase after me, and almost lost his life. I clenched my teeth in resentment and forced a false smile. Okay, don't worry, Wenli, I love you. We'll be together soon. Qingli blew me a kiss pretending to be affectionate and got up to leave. I clenched the box of pills in my hand, and my expression turned cold. Now there is both the recording and the physical evidence. He probably won't be able to escape the charges of attempted murder and breaking into a private residence. The next day, I still hadn't figured out how to persuade Shen Huaishu to meet me. Then he pushed open the door. I ran up to him in surprise. Brother, there were dark circles under Shen Huaishu's eyes, as if he hadn't slept all night. Wenli, when you said you loved me, was it true? He looked at me stubbornly, with a sadness in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Shen Huaishu rarely called me by my full name, except when he was angry, so I felt an unexplainable sense of unease. Of course it's true. Because of my lack of security, I instinctively wanted to hold Shen Huaishu's hand, but he dodged. Brother, I frowned in confusion and stood there awkwardly. Shen Huaishu smiled, but as he smiled, his eyes turned red. How much do you love me? So much that you want to kill me, right? Shen Huaishu flipped over the bedside table and stared fixedly at the box of pills that scattered on the ground. No, brother, I saw it all. What else do you want to argue about? Shen Huaishu sneered and took out a tablet. On it was clearly playing the video of the conversation between Qingli and me last night. He installed a monitor in the bedroom, which didn't happen in my previous life. I panicked and wanted to step forward, but was held back by the bodyguards. Baby, didn't I tell you, if you're going to deceive for a longer time, why can't you keep up the act so soon? Ironically, my elder brother almost fell for it again. Shen Huaishu grabbed my chin, his grip so strong that it seemed he wanted to crush me. His tone was sinister and full of madness. Brother, I didn't mean to harm you. Take out my phone and look. I secretly recorded everything Qingli said. I took this box of medicine to preserve the evidence. He was able to sneak in so easily last night because he had an insider. I suspect there are also his people in the company. Brother, you can choose not to believe me, but you must find the mole as soon as possible and use these evidences to put Qingli in jail. His target has never been me, but the Shen Corporation in your hands. Shen Huaishu's eyelashes trembled slightly, and his expression softened a bit. Do you really want me to sue him? Qingli said he would find a way to pick me up today. You should quickly send someone to search for any suspicious vehicles near the villa. I remember the license plate number is 7967. It would be best to catch him in the act. I added anxiously. Shen Huaishu slowly stroked my eyebrows and eyes, and his fingertips stopped on my lips. Baby, if you lie again, I will sew your mouth shut, and you will only be able to kiss me for the rest of your life. Shen Huaishu's voice was bone-chillingly cold, and he faintly curled his lips. You all go down and investigate now. Yes, soon. The bodyguards brought Qingli in, holding him captive. Shen Huaishu lazily reclined on the sofa and slightly raised his eyebrows. Baby, what do you think I should do to punish your old lover? He emphasized the last 3 words very heavily, as if venting his anger. Qingli struggled desperately and didn't forget to maintain his affectionate persona. Shen Huaishu, do you think you can separate us like this? No, Wenli will only hate you more. Wenli, don't be afraid, don't worry about me. As long as I can be with you, I'm not afraid of anything. Shen Huaishu's fingers gripping the classic glass tightened for a moment, revealing his unease. I gave him a reassuring smile and got up to walk in front of Qingli. I sneered and leisurely admired his embarrassed appearance. Why should I worry about you? You broke into a private residence, asked me to drug my brother, and tried to kill him. How should we settle this score? After saying that, I turned to look at Shen Huaishu. Is it too lenient to send him directly to the police station? Why don't we have someone drag him down and beat him up first, and say he fell on his own while trying to escape? Brother, remember to hire the best lawyer. Let's strive to make his sentence go from 5 years to 10 years, or from 10 years to 20 years. Qingli was stunned for a few seconds and then screamed in disbelief. Wenli, are you crazy? I felt a bit of schadenfreude and said word by word, I'm not crazy, but you definitely have to be driven crazy by the torture. The bodyguards understood and promptly picked up Qingli and took him to the basement. The door was closed, and only Shen Huaishu and I were left in the room. The lighting in the room was a bit dim. He lowered his eyes, and the emotions in his eyes were hard to discern. Taking a bold step, I directly straddled his lap. I wrapped my arms around his neck, leaned forward, and rubbed my nose against his cheek. Brother, still don't believe me? Shen Huaishu's eyes darkened, and his tone was restrained. Baby, be good and get down. I won't. Do you still suspect me? I persisted and looked directly at him, pouting my lips in a pitiful way. I don't. Shen Huaishu's voice was slightly hoarse, and the veins on his neck bulged. If you don't, why are you still like this? I think you just don't believe me. My temper flared up, and I angrily bit his lower lip, looking at the distinct tooth mark on it. I felt like I had regained my dignity unexpectedly. The next second, everything turned upside down. Shen Huaishu skillfully pinned me underneath him. Our eyes met, and an ambiguous atmosphere filled the air. As if realizing what he had done, Shen Huaishu got up panting. I'm your brother. Don't make such jokes in the future. Looking at the tips of his red ears, I smiled and grabbed his tie. Shen Huaishu, do you really only see me as your sister? Shen Huaishu's face stiffened, his sexy Adam's apple rolled, and in the end, he couldn't give an answer, so I became even more daring and unbuttoned his shirt. My fingers stroked his abs and went all the way down, hooking onto his metal belt. But Shen Huaishu, I don't want to be your sister anymore. Shen Huaishu's personality is very contradictory. On the one hand, he is extremely paranoid and desires absolute control over people and things. On the other hand, he is extremely self-deprecating, which is also the reason why he didn't dare to express his feelings in my previous life, especially when facing me. Shen Huaishu often couldn't reconcile his feelings, therefore, I misunderstood him for most of my life. In this life, I don't want to miss him again, and I don't want to wait any longer since he doesn't dare to get close. Then I will take the initiative. Baby, you will regret it. You don't know me. Shen Huaishu. seemed to have some difficulty saying it, and his expression was gloomy. I will accept everything about you, whether you're in a suit and tie or hiding behind the wardrobe. Shen Huaishu installed a hidden door in my wardrobe on many quiet nights. After I fell asleep, he would hug me. I also know that he has a secret room, which is densely filled with my photos, all of which were taken secretly. Well, it's kind of perverted, baby. Desire spread, and Shen Huaishu murmured my name almost obsessively. Seeing the crazy longing in his eyes, I tilted my head back and kissed him. Then everything started to get out of control. Shen Huaishu forcefully pressed the back of my head, seizing every bit of air in my mouth. The heat spread like wildfire, and Shen Huaishu brutally ignited my body. I hardly had any rationality left, and I pushed his solid chest with difficulty. Stop, not here. I was brave enough to tease him just now, but now that it's really the critical moment, I'm a bit hesitant. Shen Huaishu chuckled, and his movements became even more intense. Baby, don't be in a hurry, we'll go one place at a time. Help, is he deliberately misinterpreting my meaning? In the end, I was carried onto the desk by Shen Huaishu in a daze. I accidentally swept the diary off the desk. It fell to the ground and opened in a messy way. A soft spot of light spilled in through the gap in the curtains and happened to fall on the sentence that I couldn't finish reading in my previous life. It read, "The pear flower is a metaphor, and you are the real thing." And that pear flower was still in full bloom, exuding a fresh pale white color. Feeling Shen Huaishu's strong heartbeat, my tears suddenly fell. Shen Huaishu kissed the corner of my eye and said softly, "Did I hurt you?" "No." "Then why are you crying?" "I'm just too happy, baby. I can make you even happier." He smiled and coaxed me, deliberately softening his voice, which made him seem even more alluring and affectionate. I've heard this nickname many times, but I still blush. This night seemed both extremely long and extremely short. How should I describe it? It's as if I've lived 2 lifetimes, but only at this moment do I truly want to live. I originally thought that life would go on peacefully like this, but in just half a month, I received the news that Qingli was released from prison. What on earth is going on? The unknown fear is always particularly tormenting, and I slapped the desk in a hurry. Shen Huaishu took my hand and gently rubbed it, carefully examining it. "Does it hurt? It's all red." "Ah, it doesn't hurt. Hurry up and talk about the important thing." I gave him an impatient look and said anxiously, "That day, I tentatively told Shen Huaishu about my memories of the previous life. He investigated several department managers according to the clues I gave, but found nothing." This made me even more panicked. Why isn't things developing according to the pattern of my previous life? Shen Huaishu pursed his lips, looking a bit like a wronged little wife who didn't dare to voice her anger. "Aren't I just caring about you, baby? Do you dislike me now? Talk about the important thing." "Oh, then tell me." "It's just that someone found a scapegoat for Qingli to take the blame, and also spent a large amount of bail money to release him, so in the end, he was only classified as a burglary case." "How is that possible? There must be a big shot behind him, otherwise, just by himself, he couldn't have handled these things so thoroughly and wouldn't have been able to come up with so much money." Qingli came from a poor family and had a tough time in the early years. In my previous life, he wanted to use me as a stepping stone to enter the Shin Corporation and rise to the top in one fell swoop. "I've already sent people to investigate." Shen Huaishu handed me a stack of documents. It clearly recorded the income and expenditure records of Qingli's bank account. He just got out of prison yesterday. How could he transfer 500,000 yuan? In my previous life, before Qingli and I got married, Shen Huaishu sent someone to investigate his net worth. It was exactly 500,000 yuan, neither more nor less. This was all the savings he had accumulated from working after graduation. He had always been greedy for money, so how could he spend all his savings at once? Qingli is very smart. This money has passed through several accounts and even went overseas once, but the more cautious he is, the more it indicates that there is a problem. So I dug deeper and found that the recipient is the person in charge of our headquarters. Has the mole been caught? Yes, I've already sent people to monitor them. I also basically have a grasp of their specific plan. I let out a sigh of relief. I still feel that things aren't that simple. Don't worry, I'll handle it well. Just as I was starting to feel at ease, Shen Huaishu's special assistant knocked on the door with a serious expression. "Come in, President. Company R has just launched a batch of new products. Their new products are exactly the same as our unannounced patents, from the packaging to the formula." "I know, don't panic. You immediately notify the senior management and hold a meeting right away. The shareholders are already in the meeting room." The special assistant looked at me and hesitated to speak. "Go on." The manager of the R&D department said that a Mr. Qingli reported anonymously that Miss Wen leaked the business secrets. The shareholders are very emotional now. "I see. I'll go there right away. I nervously grabbed Shen Huaishu's hand. I didn't do it. I believe you. Shen Huaishu calmly opened the computer and uploaded the materials, as if he wasn't surprised at all. Did you already guess that Qingli would cause this trouble? Shen Huaishu held my hand back, with a calm smile but a hint of fierceness in his eyes. I didn't originally want to push him to his death, but he shouldn't have, above all else, targeted you. In the meeting room, Qingli's gaze landed on the hands that Shen Huaishu and I were holding, and his expression turned venomous. Shen Huaishu pressed my shoulder and motioned for me to sit in the upper seat that originally belonged to him, and he stood by my side. Suddenly, the expressions of everyone in the room changed slightly, and the looks they gave me became more reserved. Handing the USB drive to the secretary, Shen Huaishu calmly spoke. I heard that you all have some opinions about my girlfriend. Everyone present was a shrewd person. After seeing Shen Huaishu's attitude towards me, they all started to play for time and didn't want to be the one to take the lead. Qingli's face turned darker and darker, and he couldn't hold back and stood up. Mr. Shen, I want to report that Miss Wen leaked the business secrets. Do you have any evidence? Shen Huaishu raised his lips calmly, looking relaxed. Wen Li and I used to be in a relationship, so we were bound to the same email account. These days, I accidentally found that she sent a lot of internal materials to Group R. How can you prove that these documents were sent by Wen Li? Hacking accounts is a common thing these days. I also have a video of Wen Li entering and leaving the laboratory to copy the materials, as well as the bank transfer records. The receipts show that Wen Li has transferred money to the person in charge of Group R several times. How do you explain these? Cold sweat broke out on my palms, and I angrily looked at Qingli. At that time, Qingli told me that Shen Huaishu had ruined his postgraduate project in order to force him to leave, and he asked me to go to the laboratory of the Shen Corporation to help him find some clues. When we were in a relationship, Qingli also lied to me, saying that he wanted to prepare a marriage fund for our future and tricked me into transferring money to an account every month. I never expected that he had already started making plans for himself so early. Transferring money doesn't necessarily mean it's an improper transaction. And entering the laboratory doesn't necessarily mean it's related to this leakage of secrets. If any of the shareholders have doubts about these behaviors, I don't mind applying for the intervention of the judicial authorities for investigation. After all, I also really want to know which mastermind behind the scenes has been dragging my people into trouble. Qingli seemed not to have expected that Shen Huaishu would be so calm and composed, and a trace of crack appeared in his proud expression. In my previous life, the reason why he could provoke Shen Huaishu time and time again and take advantage of the loopholes was that he had me in his grasp, but this time, Shen Huaishu had no weaknesses. Qingli's expression was a bit ferocious, and his face turned red as he shouted loudly, "Then does Mr. Shen dare to find someone to confront me? You're welcome to do so at any time." Qingli glanced at me and said impatiently, "The witnesses are the financial officer of Group R and the manager of the scientific research department of the Shen Corporation. They are both willing to testify that when they secretly operated to leak the secrets. Is that so? Then let's hear it." Shen Huaishu propped himself up on the conference table with one hand and leaned slightly forward with his upper body. He exuded an intimidating sense of oppression even though he didn't really do anything, as if he was sure of victory. Qingli grinned, and there was even a hint of contempt in his eyes when he looked at Shen Huaishu. I secretly laughed in my heart. It's just like opening champagne in the middle of the game. He's just a complete clown, but on the surface, I still pretended to be weak and vulnerable. Let him be happy for a while longer. This way, the sense of uneveness will be big enough. Right? Qingli was full of confidence, and his nostrils kept flaring because of excitement. "Speak up, you guys, hurry up and say it." The female financial officer hesitated for a moment, then directly knelt on the ground and started crying. "Mr. Shen, Qingli forced me to come and slander Miss Wen. I'm a girl with no one to rely on outside, and I really had no choice. Mr. Shen, please save me." The manager of the scientific research department followed suit, with a sorrowful expression on his face. I was temporarily bewitched and accepted Qingli's bribe, so I intended to frame Miss Wen. In fact, all of this was planned by Qingli, and he also stole the patent. I beg Mr. Shen to show mercy considering that I turned myself in. Yes, it was all planned by Qingli. He had long colluded with Group R to deal with our Shen Corporation, the financial officer hastily echoed. In tears, Shen Huaishu was richer than Qingli or Group R, and his methods were even more ruthless. He just invited their families to spend a few days on vacation in the private valley under the Shin Corporation's name, and these two moles were so scared that they defected immediately. The situation was reversed in an instant, and Qingli was so shocked that he could hardly stand. "Steady, you're crazy, how dare you frame me, bitch, you took my benefits and then turned against me, they're all talking nonsense, don't believe them." Qingli was so angry that he didn't care about his image and started cursing. He even blurted out and admitted to bribing others without thinking. The shareholders present all showed expressions of disgust and made sighing sounds. These voices undoubtedly stimulated Qingli's broken nerves again. He rushed up and tried to hit me. "It's you, isn't it you who did this?" The security guards rushed forward quickly and controlled him. Looking at his twisted appearance lying on the carpet, Shen Huaishu leisurely turned on the large screen. On it were scrolling the criminal evidence of Qingli and the transaction videos of hiring people to convict others. "Congratulations, you've got 2 new charges. You've known about this for a long time, haven't you? I'm going to kill you all. Kill you all, Wenli, even though you're my wife. You still dared to betray me. The thing I regret the most is not killing you earlier. No, Group R will protect me. We're in the same boat, and I've done so much for them. They can't just ignore me." Qingli roared wildly, and his resentful eyes seemed to pierce through me. "You're thinking too much. Group R can't even save itself now, so how can they have the time to take care of you?" Shen Huaishu smiled sarcastically and looked down on Qingli's ugly appearance. The assistant enlarged the small window at the bottom of the screen, and it strikingly showed the live broadcast page. Group R originally wanted to join forces with Qingli to put the Shin Corporation in a situation of internal and external troubles, but now they have completely shot themselves in the foot. There were already tens of thousands of bullet comments, all accusing Group R of being shameless. Public opinion was boiling, and the stock price plummeted. Group R probably had no chance of making a comeback. "This is impossible. If we do it again, I can't lose to you all again." Qingli stared wide-eyed as if he couldn't rest in peace, and his behavior became more and more crazy. "Do it again." Hearing this sentence, I was suddenly stunned, and my hands and feet instantly turned cold. Qingli had also been reborn. No wonder I didn't find anything when I tried to catch the mole. According to my memories of the previous life, I couldn't imagine how miserably we would have lost if Shen Huaishu hadn't made preparations in advance this time. Shen Huaishu keenly sensed my emotions and squeezed my palm. "Don't worry, even if we do it 100 times over, he's no match for your man. As long as you're on my side, I can't lose." The sound of police sirens came closer and closer, and 2 policemen came in to arrest Qingli. The shareholders left one after another, and the assistant started cleaning up the scene. Just when everyone relaxed their vigilance, Qingli suddenly broke free from the restraint. While the police were putting handcuffs on him, he desperately grabbed my neck and took out a small knife and pressed it against my face. "Step back, all of you step back." "Okay, we'll all step back." Shen Huaishu had to let go of the hand that was holding my arm, and his voice trembled. Taking a deep breath, I tried to negotiate. "You're hurting someone in front of the police now, and there's no turning back for you. If you let me go now, maybe you can get a lighter sentence." "Turning back? You've all pushed me to this point. What turning back do I have?" Qingli roared viciously, and the knife in his hand cut my cheek. I sucked in a breath of cold air in pain, and my fingers curled up in pain. "Calm down, you can put forward any conditions you want." Shen Huaishu was tense all over, staring at me without moving. "Fine, then all of you can be buried with me. I can't escape, and neither of you will have a good time. Do it again. You're still no match for me." Qingli's eyes were blood red, and he held me hostage and moved to the corner. He kicked over the water dispenser bucket and laughed wildly. "Didn't you expect this? I still have a backup plan. Does this feeling seem familiar? This time, you're still going to die in my hands." I don't know when he replaced the water inside with gasoline. The pungent smell quickly filled the air. I couldn't stop shivering and said in despair, "Shen Huaishu, leave quickly." Qingli lit the lighter and said in a mean tone, "Yo, so infatuated. As long as you don't hurt Wenli, I can give you the Shin Corporation." The police quickly evacuated the crowd and warned Shen Huaishu in a low voice to leave, but he just stared at me without the slightest sign of wavering. "My lover is still here. I can't leave." Tears fell like broken beads, and I struggled violently. "Shen Huaishu, go, leave." Qingli's hand around my neck kept tightening and threatened, "Shut up." My eyes went dark, and I coughed violently, almost vomiting up my bile. "You, smear the gasoline on yourself, as long as you die. I'll let her go. How about that?" I shook my head desperately at Shen Huaishu. My heart was clenched into a ball, and the pain was almost suffocating. "Okay, I'll do as you say. Shen Huaishu squatted down and scooped up the gasoline and smeared it on his clothes. Qingli had already lost his mind and laughed loudly. Wenli, look, you've killed him again. I'm not the culprit, you are. When you're underground, don't blame me. Blame yourselves for being useless. No, baby, you're not wrong. From the beginning to the end, it's him who's been causing trouble. Shen Huaishu smiled gently at me. The warmth between us obviously made Qingli even more excited, and his hand holding the lighter started to shake. Only the weak make excuses for their failures and shift the blame after they fail. Shen Huaishu stood up and pressed forward step by step. You're talking nonsense. I didn't lose. I didn't lose. I didn't lose at all. Qingli completely broke down, kept muttering to himself, and his movements became sluggish in a moment of distraction. He exposed the part of his body that had been hidden behind me. The police hiding in the dark pulled the trigger and shot Qingli. Run. Shen Huaishu seized the opportunity and pounced on me, tightly protecting me under him. The lighter fell uncontrollably, and in an instant, flames burst out and the heat wave roared. The electronic devices made ear-piercing cracking sounds, and the current crackled. A sense of fear swept over me, and I held his bloodless face and cried out hoarsely, Shen Huaishu, wake up, help, someone come quickly. Fortunately, the fire brigade had been on standby downstairs, and the fire was extinguished in time, but Shen Huaishu's back was still severely burned in the hospital room. I couldn't stop crying when I looked at his body covered in bandages. The terrifying images from my previous life kept flashing in my mind, and I was extremely scared. Shen Huaishu looked at me with tears in my eyes and smiled helplessly. Come here and give me a hug. I wiped away my tears and carefully nestled into his arms. Yes, I've completely gotten rid of Shen Huaishu, this pervert, but I'm still scared. Let's not think about this. Let's talk about something else. After my mind slowly turned for a long time, I still subconsciously thought of Shen Huaishu's choice to sacrifice himself for me in both lifetimes. When he agreed to Qingli's request, he didn't even hesitate. It seems that in Shen Huaishu's world, there's only me, and nothing else is enough to hold him back. Shen Huaishu, is there anything you can't let go of? Yes, but very few. For example, the evening breeze I felt when I saw you on that early summer night, and you who were willing to kiss me when you were 18. My cheeks burned, and I felt a bit awkward unconsciously. Really, I can't stand it when this pervert suddenly acts pure. Then aren't you afraid of death? If I die, will my tombstone have your name on it? Shen Huaishu held me tightly and laughed in a low voice. Yes, then I'm not afraid anymore.